Hey, good evening, Warband, and there we are. There, I'm up on screen. Happy Canada Day to the. Are any of you even Canadian? Well, happy Canada Day anyway. I'll be celebrating your stuff on, in a couple days, so enjoy it. Unfortunately, because the entire wilderness is a tinderbox up here, as you've no doubt noticed, the amount of fireworks is going to be kept to a minimum. So, yeah, basically it's just an evening to get drunk. Which, it's a Saturday evening, so that's what it is anyway. So we've got D-Man 50, Awesome Boss, Conor McCracken, Sergeant Grinch, Henok Tedesse, Forno Raisin, Mr. Wolf 744. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Where is the AI Puniti? Well, it kind of violates YouTube's terms of service, so you'll have to settle for safe for work stuff being posted on a somewhat more regular basis. I've been fiddling around with some of the AI. A lot of updates regarding that, but gotta keep some of it safe for work. Thanks for the hazel for Pennsylvania. Yeah, you're welcome. Cause yeah, we got to be careful. Like literally, it was just like one of my coworkers was just cutting some rebar with a quick cut, and yeah, almost started another fire. It's that dry. It does not take much. A couple sparks in the wrong area, and the whole wilderness goes up. I'm celebrating not being Canadian. Okay, ouch, but you know what? I can't really fault you for that. uh, yeah, no, we'll be working on some more of the safe for work stuff. I plan on getting some more daily content. Really, I have been just wiped this past week, so yeah, hoping to queue up a bunch of stuff in the coming time. I tried to find me on Discord, but no luck. I mean, I should be in the Warband server, like under one of the like mods. So I don't know how else to help you there, man. Like, see if you can link to me through the Warband server, but I don't have anything else for that. Oh, I believe Hannah, you gotta get a thick skin in the Warband. So being roasted for being Canadian is probably the least offensive thing. All right, so chat, it has been a while since we had a good old red pill cult meeting, and especially long since we. Hey, Raisin, you can't say sorry. That's our word. It's been a while since we looked at Sean of Think Before You Sleep. Wonder if he's already ditched the rainbow stuff. Because I know he went rainbow for Pride Month, and I was really hoping that I downloaded some video he'd done on the subject, but I couldn't find any in the stuff that I had archived. And apparently the MGTOW mirror is down, so I'm not sure how to get more than I've already downloaded. I regret not downloading the whole thing while I had the chance. Was Ruby the cause of the fires? Nah, he's not the cause. Although I did get a message from him thanking for the hazing. I thought like, it's like, hey, now you can smoke your meat outside for free. Just just lay out a steak on the table outdoors, and you'll have your smoked meat by the afternoon. I mean, if you're Inuit, you can still club baby seals. I'm sure. Like, I'm sure the natives can. Just the colonizers can't club baby seals without getting other colonizers all uppity and jumpy. So, like most policies in Canada, it entirely depends on your DNA whether or not certain laws apply to you. Can you eat them? Oh yeah, yeah, baby. You can absolutely eat seals. They're a staple diet of the Inuit, from what I understand. can still massacre baby humans. Like, well, well, it's not just baby humans. Now you can massacre old humans too. Or really anybody who, stub your toe and be like, have you considered our new healthcare option? It's called death. Is Sean married? If he is, he hasn't announced it. I don't know if we'll get a divorce stream, but we might be able to get a breakup stream. So, I don't know. Maybe Brittany Venti will start off an OnlyFans and we can see like a cuck stream or a breakup stream or something like that. But until that day comes, well, we just have to settle for these roast streams until I run out of videos. I imagine marrying Brittany Venti. Well, I am drinking, so if I do imagine it, I'm hoping to forget. Sad how the elderly and disabled are treated in Canada. Well, yeah. What is... It's kind of an interesting conundrum, because on one hand, well, the elderly specifically, they're that larger voting demographic, but they're no longer that major income earner, and they're also, dying off in pretty significant numbers. And they're expensive to maintain. Like, our healthcare system, you've got a bunch of people advocating for additional healthcare and more of the free Canadian healthcare that's so good and more stuff for nursing homes. But, between all the, let's call it the 2019 business and, well, crappy pay, yeah, you're not getting as great care these days. So I'm sure the government's more than eager to just cull them and figure out what their next target demographic will be. Honestly, no, this was actually a funny thing I learned back when I took business school, so I'm sure Raby can attest to this. But the reason that there was a whole lot of advertising targeting children back in the day was because you had to ask who had the money to spend, and it was the parents of children, because they were buying crap for their kids. You couldn't appeal to the kids directly. You had to appeal to the kids to get to the parents, because those are the ones who had the money. Well, nowadays, who has the money? Well, I mean, it would probably be the retirees that are selling their homes. Like everyone who decided, you know what, I've got a multi-million-dollar home thanks to inflated housing prices. So I'm going to sell that, move into a place that's, $750,000, even at massively inflated costs. And then I'm going to pocket the difference. So I got $1 million to spend on whatever the heck I want. I mean, if you want to know who the target demographic is, all you got to do is turn on television and ask, who are these commercials for? And then you will learn, so these are the kind of people who watch television. It's, television advertising has to be more broad than internet stuff. So if any of y'all watch CNN, well, you've probably seen some of the stuff that I've seen whenever it's been on, and it's like, yeah, they are targeting people who are not in the prime of their life, and they are certainly not targeting children. At least not for money. They're targeting children for other stuff. Hey, Mal, you know what other country promises free healthcare? North Korea. Do you want the standard of healthcare that one can get in North Korea for free? Or do you want the standard of healthcare that one can get in North Korea with a bribe? Yeah, I honestly envy the US stuff, because if I need if I actually need to deal with something medically right away, yeah, I can go and just give money to a professional. Well, I mean, maybe I can't so much anymore because you've got your own Medicaid, Obamacare, whatever. But at the very least, I like the idea of just being able to pay a doctor to, do something about problems. Because the other problem is that when you have the government financing something, it becomes like college. Like, oh yeah, the government's going to give out guaranteed loans to go get post-secondary education. It's like, is that why post-secondary education now needs to be paid off over the course of decades rather than with a summer part-time job? Huh. Yeah, kind of a massive inflation of prices when you have guaranteed money flowing in. All media is the enemy? Well, I think that's fairly broad. I mean, I get the sentiment, but I'm gonna nitpick just because I'm me. And the problem is that media is, well, at its core, media is just a method of communication. Media is, I believe, what the plural of mediums. Like any method of communication has to go through a medium, be it talking, writing, television, art, etc. And so media, a collection of mediums, yeah, the media industry, the media conglomerates, yeah, they're the enemy because they've been bought out. But that just means like large media companies, because they're so juicy, they're a target. Whereas when you have smaller, more independent media interests that aren't tied into big money, please donate, link posted above. Uh, yeah, they're not seen as attracting a big enough audience to be worth bribing. Therefore, they're usually more trustworthy because they actually have to appeal directly to their audience rather than to the monopolies of major corporations and the government. Mainstream media is obsolete. Well, no, that's the problem. Is unfortunately it's not obsolete because there's still a sizable portion of the demographic, at the very least the 60 plus demographic, that have a decent amount of financial and political power, and they still trust mainstream media. Like, because like, here's the thing, like, let's imagine just a monarchy for a minute. Like, you could say that mainstream media is irrelevant in the age of camera phones, but if the king watches television and doesn't trust all this newfangled tech, then does it really matter whether or not it's relevant or trustworthy? Because the one with the most power, well, whatever media they watch is unfortunately the most relevant because that's where the decisions come in. Unless the ones that trust camera phones and live streams are the ones that hold the most power, it kind of doesn't matter. You may as well have said that back in the early 2000s, internet forums had the most power. But it's like, well, no, they don't. So they have to tell a little truth to get you through the door. I mean, but they don't. That's the thing. They only have to tell you. They only have to tell enough truth, or at least not tell any obvious lies. Because let's be honest, people don't verify stuff anymore. People don't go around and go, "Oh, hey, I heard this on the news. Let me double check that. Let me look that up. Let me see if that's actually true." No, they're just gonna go, "Oh yeah, I heard that on the television. Therefore, it must be true. No need to look it up." And anyone who did look it up and has anything else, well, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear any contradictory statements. I want to go to Disney World every single year. Oh, last time I went to Disney World, I saw that they had a whole ton of people. Surely they're never going to be hard up for money. Any notion of Disney's stock collapsing or them starting to feel the pain? No. That's all wrong. I know. I went. Seriously, these are conversations I've had with people who are supposedly so much older and wiser than me. It is beyond frustrating to try to talk to someone who's like 10, 20 years older than you, and they refuse to listen because they can't imagine that anything outside of their lived experience exists. I mean, yeah, like Gronick calls it bitch think, and it's not exclusive to the younger generations. Older generations have it too. And SCE, if you're in the chat, no, I'm not just blaming boomers for this. This is a phenomenon that I've experienced with many different people. But at the very least, when talking to younger people, they at least have the idea that there's a world beyond their lived experiences. Whereas the older people get, the more they seem to think that their lived experience is just the way things are. Who needs to fact check when Meta can fact check? Well, and that's the thing. Like, you get all these major organizations, they just toss out enough fact checking stuff so that technically the truth can be told, but they get to say what the real truth is. And, but like, let's be honest, how many people 60 plus are actually savvy enough that having a Twitter fact check or a Facebook fact check or a Meta fact check is even relevant? I mean, do I have the actual numbers in front of me for CNN? No, but the problem is it's the demographics and who has the actual power. And this is where I do point to the boomers because, like, well, when the majority of the voting population, or at least the large, well, maybe not the majority, but when the significant portion of the voting population all watches the same 5 channels, yeah, the message is going to be pretty unilateral. Meanwhile, like, I can talk to a 17-year-old and he's got no fucking clue who Jack Murphy is or what the Murphy beard is. But he's also a guy who knows who Andrew Tate is. And if you're watching, for fuck's sakes, like, you know, don't say my name in chat, but at least wave or say hello or something. You've been trying to find me for ages. For fuck's sakes. Come on, dude. Get with it. Living in botch think land is very hard. Can't really blame them for their beliefs. No, ignorance is not limited to boomers and zoomers. Like, I mean, it'd almost be nicer if you could break it down by demographic, but I really don't know what would be the uniting factor behind it, really. I mean, could you blame upbringing? I don't know. Like, could you bring environment that one is raised in? Like, maybe it's more prevalent in single mother households? I don't know. Like, this is one of the things where, what would you even measure that as a demographic? And then on top of that, like, how would you even try to tie it together? How would you test for it? How would you survey the population? And even if you did have that information, what would you do with it? If ignorance wasn't widespread, we wouldn't have the issues we do. I mean, well, at the same time, like, what is... I guess it's the question of, like, what is ignorance a product of? Because we can see people talk about, like, be very knowledgeable on topics from, you know, like decades ago. Like, people who are very, very old and grew up in, like, less civilized times. Oh, they didn't have the internet. But they still seem to, you know, understand things and they could speak on topics in detail. But then again, what's the sample size that we're looking at? The problem is, the more you actually want to know some of these answers, the more you realize how difficult it is to get an accurate measurement for how things were in the past. Because we can only look at it through a very small sample size and, honestly, yeah, rose-tinted nostalgia. 50 years ago, like, what was the average population like? But then again, if you look at people these days, sure, we see a lot with the internet. And we can see a lot more widespread insanity. What was the insanity like 50 years ago? Because surely things weren't all normal and on the up and up. There had to be a bunch of crazies. Were they just more isolated so they couldn't speak in as large numbers? Was it in similar portions? Is it perhaps something that is infectious? Like maybe it does giving the crazies larger platforms allow these crazy ideas to spread even further? Or would not being able to speak as far alternatively make it so that, well, you kind of kept, like, the crazies were still the crazies, but they were isolated to their own little corner and they just didn't infect the normies? Or could people become uncrazy by being, like, with normies? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Detailed questions to ask people from the past, I guess. But even then, you're still going to be looking at a very small sample size. Do me a favor, go to a mirror, say Jack Murphy 3 times, and see what happens. Well, you know what? Screw it. If you're screaming in a couple minutes, then what expected to happen happened. I'll be right back. Jack Murphy! Jack Murphy! Nothing happened. No, I'm not going to try to say him in reverse. Like that. Like, no. I'm not going to try the in reverse thing. I mean, could I? Maybe if I thought about it for a little bit. Like, here, Kaj? Yeah, that'd take a bit of work to do. So yeah, no, not gonna try the reverse trick. Maybe I need a candle next time, and, like, I don't know, a jar of semen in one hand, a candle in the other. Did you check the corner of the room? Uh, I mean, there's enough corners he could be hiding in, but we'll see. You know, if I start screaming and get dragged off screen, then it worked. Candle in one hand and a cuck chair in the corner. Ah, right. Did it wrong. Did it wrong. Should have said cuck Murphy. Hey, how many variations are you guys gonna make me do here? Come on. Come on. All right. But I guess, like, about 26 minutes of random ranting. We'll say that's like the opening monologue. We got all these late night comedians who apparently all their shows are falling apart because all the writers are on strike. So now all these late night comedians, they don't have any material because they don't write their own jokes. So yeah, let me intro this. So yeah, we are back with Think Before You Sleep. And this is video number 31 of his archives. Another innocent man gets Me Too'd. So we are probably dating ourselves with this relevance, but let's hop right into it.
So this past 7 days, we hit our most recent addition to the Me Too movement. And at this point, after seeing this for a year and a half, it's like, this is clearly going to change how people interact. And I think that's exactly what the left wants. It's exactly what the communists want. That's exactly what the Marxists want. They want us to not interact in the way that we're interacting, because if we interact like we're interacting now, their opinions aren't very popular.
Really? Okay, well, we've got, like, what, 3-4 years since this video came out. I don't know. I know. No, I would actually disagree. I'd say that no, he's flat out wrong here. Like, this is what the communists want? No. Because what has the Me Too movement changed? It has changed the way that men and women interact. It has made men less likely to be vulnerable around women, to approach women, to involve women in their lives. Well, who are the top agents of the state that are required for the communist regime? Women. It is women who police men. It is women who report men to the state. It is women who are the ones that open the door for the state to remove a man from the home. That is what women do. The state needs women in men's lives. So, men not interacting with women, is that good for the state or bad for the state? It's bad because now men are talking to other men. And they're not talking to women. They're not getting involved with women. They're not messing with women. That's not good for the state. That's not good for the communists. So, yeah, 25 seconds in, flat out disagree here. The Me Too movement is not good for the communists. Not at all. Not the changing. It's certainly not their objective. Maybe I'd be curious, like, does he actually have a justification for why he thinks that's the case? Because all it did was, from what I see, is get men to hang out more with other men and not with women. Or is he talking like more about the depopulation angle? Let's give him another 30 seconds or so before I interrupt. Let's see where he's going.
Socialist justice opinions and Marxist opinions are a very, very small part of the population. They're a fringe movement, and you can tell they're a fringe movement because when companies like Gillette or companies like I guess Procter and Gamble or Nike or any sort of big company takes on a leftist message, people fucking hate it.
How much of a fringe is it? How much is that? Well, yeah, is it hated? Sure. I guess, yeah, it's hated, but it has the money. Does it really matter if a movement is fringe? If a movement is fringe, if the people who hold the majority of the money and the power are the ones backing it? Like, I think about it in terms of finance. Would you rather have 5 clients that each have $1,000 to spare, or 500 clients that each have $5 to spare? Because it doesn't matter if all those 500 clients take all their money and pool it together. They still don't match even one of the powerful clients. So, like, this idea that you need a large portion of the population to agree with something for it to be good, no. No, you just need the ones with the power to agree with something for it to be quote unquote good or strong or a valid position. The majority of the world's history has not been dictated by the masses. It's been dictated by a very small portion of the population that has a large amount of control. I don't know. Am I barking up the wrong tree, guys? By all means, call me out, and you can call me out with voice chat if you use the donation link. Well, let's see. We're not even a minute in.
And the only way they're going to get them to follow suit with the commercials is to make sure that their lives are exactly as miserable as the people who produce those commercials or as the people who fight to get those commercials produced. And so the way you do that is you have to break down the culture. This is why before you get things like Nazism or Marxism or fascism, they all take away religion. They all take away philosophy. They even inject...
Did Nazism take away religion? Do a quick Google search on that. Let's see. Hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I cannot repeat any of this, but if you're curious, there's a religion in Nazi Germany section on Wikipedia, and it goes into a little bit more detail. I would say, yeah, saying that it was anti religion in the same way that other Marxist powers were, I'd say no. No, it just had a very specific flavor of religion that it wanted to promote, and a very specific flavor of religion that it did not want to promote. But saying that it was unilaterally anti-religious, quick glance at this Wikipedia thing says not really. But hey, we can't all do as in-depth research as Sean here. Like a quick glance at Wikipedia. Surely Sean has significantly more sources to back up what he's claiming, and he's not just pulling this out of his ass.
Stupid things like postmodernism, where people are saying that facts don't exist, and all the gender identities and all this shit like that, because they're doing that to break down society. Because if they don't break it down, you won't accept their program.
Um, no, I don't think they're trying to break down society. Again, like the communists need society. They need the social contract, because the social contract requires that those who produce sacrifice for those who consume. Communism and Marxism requires that. If you break down society and make it an every man for himself, now maybe you could argue the existing society, like maybe that argument could be made, but the existing society was still those who produce sacrifice for those who don't. If you break down the society, like what? You're going to break down a hierarchical, class based system so that your hierarchical, class based system will be accepted? No, what's going to happen is you're going to break it down. It's going to be every man for himself, and all sorts of hierarchy, class based systems are going to be rejected by everybody who's strong enough to be self sufficient. I mean, like, I guess this is the thing that going through Sean's old archives, you find the most disappointing. Because like I used to listen to the guy and think that, you know what, he's actually got something interesting to say. But now going back through it with some years of hindsight, it really does sound like he was just talking out his ass and hadn't actually given any deeper thought, ironically, into what he was saying. Because like if I had him on stream to talk him over, could he back up his points? There's no way that he'd bother with a channel the size of mine, realistically. But could he actually back up his points nowadays? Would he even still believe in them? An interesting thought, but this is a 15-minute video, and we're not even a minute and a half in. So, yeah, prepare for another 1 hour segment, which I'll eventually going to have to upload. Like, I'm making a content drought here. I need to freaking put my nose to the grind wheel of editing. Too busy perfecting that annoying voice. I mean, you're not wrong. Like, yeah, his voice undermines his credibility, and this is speaking as someone who probably sounds a heck of a lot younger than he actually is. I don't know. Would it be worthwhile to try and speak in a more authoritative, presentation-esque voice? Speaking as one with authority in a deeper baritone, perhaps with a slower cadence of speech. I don't know. I mean, I just don't feel like putting on a major act for you guys. I don't care if the subs don't grow very big. I got like 26, 27 of you guys popping in here, actually willing to listen to me speak as I am. I don't know. I just don't feel like putting on an act. Like that's too much effort. This isn't my job. This isn't my career. This is a hobby and a nice little social outlet. So why fake something? Rather not have to worry about putting on a performance while I'm trying to have deep thoughts about stuff. But let's continue before I get too sidetracked.
As well. Again, we've seen that these programs are very, very unpopular in the public eye. So this case of Me Too is just another example of that, where they've taken extreme examples like Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby, and they say now the normal person is basically just as bad as Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein if they do these particular behaviors. And
Okay, Bill Cosby. Did that stuff ever actually go through, or is that stuff just a meme? Like, I'm honestly kind of confused on that because, like, it's funny that he's talking about like another man gets me too'd and it's potentially false allegations, and then meanwhile he's name dropping Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein as though they're equivalents. Was there ever any evidence for what Bill Cosby did? Like, maybe I'm just out of the loop on that, but I don't really recall that being a thing. Maybe it was a thing. I honestly don't know.
they've done this in a lot of communities. They always do this. This is the oldest trick in the book. They take if you want to ban guns, here's what you do: you take a person who's a school shooter, someone who's a crazy person, and you say every gun owner is like this school shooter, even though well, I mean, more people die in high school football than school shootings. Or they take abortions. They say every single case of abortion, the mother was in danger of death. When in reality, only a it's like it was like
Or, in every case where a woman doesn't have a hymen, oh, she was horseback riding, or she did gymnastics, or she was just born without one. Yeah, like 99.9997% of women are born with hymens. But for the 0.003%, you can't have that as a preference. Yeah, so I think that's what, making a mountain out of a molehill? That'd probably be a pretty accurate statement here.
I did the math on this about a year or two ago when I was having a conversation with somebody about this. The math on it's like 1.8% of abortions are, undue harm to the mother. Most abortions are people who just don't want to have kids. So they take the extreme example and they apply it as the normal example. And
I was thinking blighted journeyman used to be based, like that statement right there, factually true, pretty based. Like, we can agree on that, but like, there's a point where one can sprinkle based facts in with a whole bunch of bullshit, and that's the problem. It's the same thing as was said above about the media. They need to put in enough truth to get you to follow along, and I think that was the secret to Sean's stuff. Like, he had some based facts that he sprinkled in, and that gave credibility to his bullshit. Like, because let's be honest, like, that's probably the most base things he said all video, which I don't think that was particularly revolutionary, but somehow he managed to get a larger audience by saying fairly mild things, but he wrapped it up in a more acceptable format, I guess. I don't know, kind of like these dating coaches, the Rolo Tomatoes, the Andrew Tates, John Tranthony lifestyles, like all that stuff. Like, they say enough edgy and based shit to get people to actually listen to them, and meanwhile it's all wrapped up in their personal brand of bullshit. which ultimately isn't helpful. He was chosen by the powers to be for some reason. It's like, well, yeah, apparently. I don't know, maybe just someone at YouTube liked what he had to say. Maybe he's, well, fuck, I don't know. Not knowing his real name or origins, you can't really say too much beyond that. But who knows? Like, he was fed into the algorithm and is still fed into the algorithm to this day. So he's doing something that YouTube likes. That much is certain.
They do this with literally everything. Oh, one more thing I forgot is the Alex Jones thing. They said Alex Jones is this crazy conspiracy theorist who said that Sandy Hook was a lie and he caused all the trauma in these kids. And it's okay, maybe. And I don't think Alex Jones did anything wrong, but maybe you have a point. He's the craziest of us. And then months later, they went after Sargon. They went after Milo. They went after a ton of other people who were just people with differing opinions. And Alex Jones was one of those people as well. He just had a different opinion. He was just a little bit more crazy about it. So in this case of Me Too, we have a voice actor, Vic Mignogna. If you don't know who that is, you might recognize some of the proper.
Ah, yes. Vic Mignogna. Honestly, this was the introduction to a lot of channels. I think that was the Vic Mignogna case, like, kind of Rekieta Law's, like, big introduction into this particular sphere. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't know anything about Rekieta Law prior to this. Maybe he had an online presence before that, but I think I started to know Rekieta Law through the whole Vic Mignogna stuff. So, it was an interesting flashpoint. Like, I think if you were going to do like a history of the Red Pill and MGTOW, you'd probably end up including Vic Mignogna's accusations in that particular segment. It's something that still has echoes to this day.
He's from Full Metal.
Oh, I had to say, had never heard of the case. Okay, so yeah, Vic Mignogna, voice actor in a whole bunch of English dubbed anime. Yeah, basically just got Me Too'd by a bunch of his coworkers over absolute bullshit and was dropped from the company and basically blacklisted. Like, career over. And Full Metal Alchemist is like, regardless of whether or not you think that it is the anime of all time, like, it is pumped up as like one of, if not the top anime of all time. Like, it's got crazy huge fans, and it is quite good. So it's not like it's entirely unearned. But yeah, like, one of the lead voice actors for one of the top animes in the West of all time lost his career over false accusations. Yeah. So yeah, it definitely got a whole lot of anime fans really looking at all this Me Too stuff.
Alchemist. He played Edward Elric in Full Metal Alchemist, or he more recently he played Brawly in Dragon Ball. Probably a very successful movie, by the way, that just came out. I think it made $100 million on the box office. So good on Funimation for doing that. But Vic Mignogna was accused of extremely innocuous behavior.
Okay, Ivan, most based anime of all time was Madoka Magica. Change my mind. I'm gonna point at Berserk. I'm gonna give Berserk, but admittedly, I have not watched the Madoka anime. I have only read the manga. So maybe the anime gets more based, but I'm gonna say that Berserk is more based than Madoka Magica. Although I will give the author of Madoka Magica credit for making Song of Saya. And if any of you have not played Song of Saya, which I imagine is most of you, I can't really say I recommend it unless you're into Lovecraftian horror and mind break, because that's probably what's going to happen to you by the time it's done. If you are into that stuff, then play it at night, and in one night. You can get through the whole visual novel in one night. I think it's available for free. Just, yeah, Song of Saya. Because in Madoka Magica, he was holding back. But let's continue.
What you might consider friendly, what you might consider, by the way, Vic Mignogna is a pretty devout Christian, or, well, maybe he wouldn't define himself by Christianity, but certainly he's a very avid believer in the Bible. He mentions before in some of his con speeches that he doesn't, convention speeches, that he doesn't follow religion, but he does follow the Word of God.
You see, that's the kind of shit I like there. Like, doesn't follow the religion, because let's look at the church. The church is cucked. The church is fucked. The church is basically useless. Does the Bible itself still have value, regardless of whether or not the church itself and the religious organization itself is absolutely fucked? Yes. The Bible still has value. So I think Vic and I would get along in that. Although, I'll be honest, he's probably read more of the Bible than I have. And that's something I need to correct. Got to schedule time to listen to Joshua Graham read me all the other books. But that's a side tangent in of itself. Let's keep going.
So, Christian, or Christian ideal person, and he's just doing very, very Christian-type behavior. Because when you go to a church, as I grew up as sort of a Christian, is everything's very personal. It's not just say, hello, how are you? You say, hello, how are you? You shake their hand, you say, peace be with you. It's very, very much about physical contact. And there's a reason it's about physical contact, because if you can physically connect with somebody, you can also connect with them more verbally and more mentally. It's that same Piaget thing that I've talked about in some other videos, is that if you're going to have a psychological concept, you have to act it out physically, and the physical action of connection is a handshake, or maybe it's a hug, or maybe it's that European thing where they kiss each other on the cheek and stuff like that. And so Vic Mignogna was essentially accused of sexual assault for doing things like this. Oh, let's talk about the first one, because that's an easier one. He was accused of being a homophobe first. One of his fans brought up some yaoi, which is code for anime porn of two men. Yuri would be the lesbian porn. And he said, I don't want to sign that. And he said he didn't want to sign it because it was not canon. That may or may not be true, but it seems to be because he has a fan club. And in his fan club Discord server, you're not allowed to talk about yaoi or yuri or hentai because he doesn't want a bunch of porn in his fan club. So basically what this person did is they came up to him and said, hey, sign my porn. And he said, I'm not signing your porn. Now he's a homophobe.
Look, I enjoy myself. You know, a bunch of the more cultured, not safe for work content. I do enjoy that, yes. I would never take such publication up to a voice actor for that character and ask for their autograph on it. That, like, okay, A, that's fucking creepy. B, it's not like it's anything they were involved in. Like, if you're going to have that signed, have it signed by the original author. It's not like he voice acted in this stuff. He voice acted in a character that someone else took off the side of that and then made something somewhat unrelated. It basically is asking to sign fan fiction. It's like, but he played no part in that. There's no point in him signing it. Why would you even consider that? I mean, the closest thing I had was like, I had a Death Note wallet. I went to a convention where the English voice actor for Light Yagami was on there, and I asked him to sign that. But that was officially licensed merchandise directly related to the product that he contributed to. That is completely different from if I'd asked him to sign like Light X Ryuk Yaoi or Light XL Yaoi, because I know that there's a shit ton of that. Like seriously. But whatever, asking for common fucking sense. It was probably a woman too. Like, I'm pretty sure that women are the top consumers of yaoi, so some woman wants the voice actor to sign something for God knows what reason. Like, of all the Full Metal Alchemist stuff, that's all you had? The only piece of Full Metal Alchemist merch that you had on you at an anime convention was some fucking yaoi? I mean, Surely, I'm not off base here. That is just bloody stupid. Some anime fan bases are creepy as hell. Look, like the anime fan base as a general, it's got a lot of creepy motherfuckers. Like anything where porn gets involved, you're gonna bring out the creepy motherfuckers. And well, I can understand Vic not wanting to have that stuff around him. The irony that him doing stuff that would be common sense for not wanting to end your career is in fact the very stuff that got used to end his career. Think about it, like you're a voice actor for something that it's anime. It's not an 18 plus genre. Like kids can watch Full Metal Alchemist. Teenagers, at the very least 12 up, like can watch and enjoy and process Full Metal Alchemist. If you are the official voice actor for the English dub, your target demographic is, children who probably attend things with their parents. You don't want porn in that. You're appealing to kids. You don't want porn. Like, I know that might sound a little weird to say in the modern day where we've got drag queen story hour. But back in like the late 2010s, that was still fairly common sense. Anyway, rant aside, let's keep going. Try to maybe finish this in under an hour.
The second accusation will be taken from an article by Anime News Network. And by the way, Anime News Network, who, I've been sort of into anime for the past 15 years or so. Yeah, I was a devout fan when I was very, very young. In fact, I even met Vic Mignogna when I was in high school. Very, very nice guy, by the way. And I've been on and off, looking at Anime News Network for information. And after seeing this article, fuck you, Anime News Network. How dare you do shit like this? You're taking somebody who has not done really anything wrong, and you're making them out to be a pedophile and an all-around terrible person. Because the second set of allegations was sexual assault. And what they've done here is, as I described before, they've taken behavior that is normal, friendly behavior and said it was rape. Because that's what they're trying to conflate here. It's like that big feminist research paper that said that 20% of women on college campuses get raped. No, it's not 20% of women get raped. Rape is a violent crime. Rape is, you beat some chick over the head in the alleyway and then you take her pants off and you have sex with her. That's rape. An unwanted kiss is not rape. An unwanted hug is not rape. An unwanted handshake is not rape. There is a reason that rape is a crime, and there is a reason that child molestation is a crime, because the action of child molestation and the action of rape has a lasting effect.
Well, it's no longer a crime in California as long as there's a sufficient age gap, so yeah. I mean, I do feel like I have to interrupt the guy like every couple minutes or so, just so that this doesn't become local purple man looks kind of miffed while other YouTuber rants about stuff. Actually, you know what? I forgot. We got to put this on a little bit of faster speed. Playback. Yeah, we got to put the speed maybe not quite 1.5 times. Because he does tend to go on excessive rants. I mean, heck, I go on excessive rants, but yeah, it makes the late 2010s look so much more innocent when you consider all the stuff that we're dealing with in the, I guess, early to mid 2020s. Is purple my favorite color grade? Honestly, no. I would have put red as my favorite color more recently, and then green. but the character design that Chronic sent for the character was purple, and I'll be honest, it's grown on me. I I definitely say that would be in my top three now. So, like, it's third place behind red and green.
For likely the rest of their life. Most people who are victims of child molestation never get over it. Most people who are victims of rape never get over it. And so this is a very, very serious thing. And to conflate a hug or to conflate in friendly behavior with rape is absolutely disgusting. And what an insult to people who have actually been raped. So this is not rape, this is not child molestation, because it's not going to produce any sort of lasting psychological imprint that will harm their life. All that's going to happen is that they may have said, well, that was a little bit weird, and then they're going to immediately get over it and get on with the rest of their day. So what this article is trying to do is accuse Vic of being a pedophile. The first example of...
Mate, I remember an old Disney cartoon. It was like, like Donald Duck's family, like Scrooge, and it focused around like Huey, Dewey, and Louie. And it was a Christmas episode. And one thing that happened was like you had the aunt who gave the kids, like, like family kisses. Just an affectionate aunt who's excited to see her nephews. Cool, right? Okay, well, that's the thing. By these standards, well, that's... God, can I even say that? Let's just abbreviate it to CR. Essentially, like, you would say that unwanted affection from a family member, like to the point of hugs and kisses, is now CR. Like that is true. That is the scale here where, yeah, normal friendly contact is now CR. And you wonder now why like you can't even look like that nowadays, geez, you look at a woman too long, you're going to be getting that kind of accusation. Like, I just don't. These days, I just do not. Like, I mean, honestly, I barely make eye contact with anyone, or don't look at anyone for any length of time, unless there's some sort of reason to. But the complete stranger walking down the street is like, no, I look at you long enough to understand, to get an idea for who you are and what you're doing. It takes less than 5 seconds, and then I look away, as I don't know whether or not you're crazy. Grapes, like, everybody's whining about grapes, and it's to the point where you just don't care about grapes anymore because it just sounds like wine. But let's continue.
I would guess innocuous behavior. By the way, if you're at the head of a massive line, a lot of times I've been to conventions before. I used to go, when I was in high school, like maybe 14 to 18 or so, and these lines are fucking massive. And especially for a voice actor like Vic Mignogna. Vic Mignogna is a huge voice actor. He is in pretty much everything. Like, the only people who are bigger than him are maybe like Crispin Freeman and Steve Bloom in terms of voice actors. But he's a pretty big voice actor. So he's probably been, at the point of this photo, probably been answering or signing photographs and doing things all day. And so they mentioned that the person in this photograph is 14 years old and her face is rightfully blanked out. Thank you for doing that. That's one good credit to Enemy News Network, because you shouldn't post pictures of minors with their parents' consent, and they probably didn't get it. But so he gives this girl a hug, a type of hug that he gives every single fan, and she happens to have a jacket unzipped, and his hand maybe misses the outside of her jacket and goes inside the jacket. I don't know why this is such a big deal, because if she hadn't been wearing a jacket, his hand would just be around her waist. It's not like he's trying to grab her ass or anything like that. It's not like, even if he flicked his wrist downward, his hand is so high up that he would never reach any sort of sexual area. Now, for this next part, you kind of have to consider Vic Mignogna's fan base, and I have to put this in context, or it doesn't make that much sense. Is that girls are...
Can I imagine Think Before You Sleep as a voice actor? No. No, I can't. I'm pretty sure that I have a greater voice acting range than Think Before You Sleep. Like, one of the biggest complaints about Think Before You Sleep has been that he is very monotone. Like, he just kind of presents all the same stuff. Maybe he gets a little more agitated and speeds up. But I've never really gotten the impression he had a great acting range. So no, I couldn't even imagine Think Before You Sleep as a voice actor for even the shittiest Newgrounds animation. But yeah, looking at this is like it's a convention. People ask for hugs. They ask for photos with the hugs. I mean, if we were to apply this standard, like what? I wonder how many photos there are of Justin Trudeau, like touching a woman's shoulder because she asked for a picture with him. Are those going to be launched at him? Well, no, because he's not a Christian and he's not a political target. The show. Imagine a woman dressed immodestly, then cry about SH and grapes. You know what? Yeah, here's the thing. I remember this, and this was a while ago that I heard this, and it was from an even older statement. Like, the first thing that women will do is they will advocate for the right to go around topless. Then they will demand that they be allowed to arrest men for staring at their chest. I don't see that as incorrect. Because like they all want to be able to, I don't even know what you'd call it. Like like they want to be able to maximize their ability to tempt the men they want. And then when it attracts men they don't want, they want the ability to punish the men that they don't want. And then that's led to today's natural conclusion where even men who probably are desirable to a decent number of women, it's just safer to assume that you're not. It is just safer to assume that a woman is going to screw you up because, like, what will you get out of it? Like, let's say you have the option of flirting with a woman. Let's say it's a dialogue choice in an RPG. You see a woman. Do you flirt with her? Yes or no? The benefit? Maybe you get a night of action. Maybe you just get a pleasant interaction. Worst case scenario, you get the cops called on you. You get called out in the middle of the street. You get socially ostracized for being a creep. And you got what? 50%? 60%? If there was a 1 in 5 chance of you being socially ostracized and having the cops called on you, would you take it? I don't think I would. Because that's like Russian roulette has 1 in 6 odds. You take the average person and say, hey, there's a 1 in 6 chance that you're going to die. Would you put this to your head and pull the trigger? The average person is going to say no. That's what it's like. Okay, because here's the thing. Like, let's break it down. Let's say that you are a man who's a 5. That would optimistically mean that half of women would reject you and half of women would accept you. That's like playing Russian roulette with 3 chambers loaded. So let's say you're a top 80%. Like maybe you're not a 9 or a 10, but you're still an 8. You are still technically in the top 20% of men. Now your chances of being called a creep are 1 in 5. So you're playing Russian roulette with a revolver that has a 5-cylinder chamber and one of them is loaded. Are you going to do that? I'm willing to bet most men would not. And that's why stuff like this, these hugs, I haven't been to conventions in a long time, but I would not be surprised if this stuff never happens anymore. Heck, conventions are dying now. Probably because what's the point of seeing all these people in person anymore? It's a liability for the actors to the point that any sort of social interaction with the fans is just it's not a net positive. It's better to just do the work and keep separate from them. That cold approach is really dangerous. Oh god, yeah. Cold approach in the modern era. I remember the PUA saying like, you know what, you got to approach like 100 women a day. It's like, okay, maybe if you live in a big city, that's even possible to do without, you know, doing it to the same one more than once. But that's so bloody dangerous. Just, God, no, 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 no. Cold approach to a random woman. It's dangerous. Not because she herself is dangerous, mind you. It's the powers that she can call upon. Yeah, if you approach 100 women a day, you'll be arrested by the end of that day. Oh, guaranteed. No, guaranteed. If you are in the same local area and you approach 100 women in one day, there will be multiple calls to the police. Not just by the women that you approach, but by bystanders who see you randomly approaching women. I almost guaranteed you are going to at least have a talk with the cops. Chad can cold approach, no problem. Average guy, no way. Okay. But the problem is, like, the difference is, like, Chad barely needs to cold approach because the women basically rush up and get in his face. Like, have you ever heard a Chad talk about cold approaching? No. Why? Because Chad is just sitting at the bar, minding his own fucking business when random women come up and give him their hotel room key copy. Like, Chad does not need to cold approach. Chad is basically that guy who's getting so many job offers that he has to turn a bunch of them down. Heck, Yidis has spoken on this, where he's just like sitting at the bar minding his own business, and he's got random women coming up to him trying to mess with him. So if you are a Chad, no. You do not need to do it. Heck, I wouldn't even call myself a Chad per se. And that shit's happened to me. I'm just minding my own business. And then some woman starts coming up and starts trying to like make conversation and get into a relationship. So no, like Chad does not give a fuck about cold approaching. If you are a Chad, women approach you. Like, you do not need to do any fucking work. Hey, real name's not given. Thanks for dropping by. Going on a side we had. Oh god, we are probably not going to make the 1 hour, but whatever. 6 minutes to go. Let's do this.
Crazy over Vignon. He's certainly very, very socially fluent. He's certainly very personal, and so it makes sense that a lot of girls will go after him. And so one of the moves that he does is that he goes for a hug and then he goes for a kiss on the cheek.
Yeah. For us, some women are afraid to shoot their shot. Okay, some women. But let's say that 80% of women are afraid to shoot their shot at Chad. That doesn't mean that the other 20% don't. Even with 80% of women not shooting their shot at Chad due to fear, that other 20% is more than enough for Chad to have to turn them down for his itinerary. Like, it's not hard. Like, and you don't even need to be like a Chad, really. Like, I know guys personally who, like, I would not describe them as a Chad in the slightest. They can still pull multiple girls a week. So, no. Like you can be a freaking 6 out of 10 and still get multiple girls a week. Like, that is more than possible. So, like, if you need to cold approach and that is your only way to attract women, then you're 5 out of 10 or lower. I don't really know any other way to say it to you. Like, if your strategy is going up to random women in the street and trying to talk with them, you are average or below average. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the fucking pickup roaches. Like, y'all are fucked. You're all putting in way too much effort and putting in way too much risk for something that, quite frankly, men who you probably would look down on are pulling more than you. So that just shows how effective your fucking game is.
Not a big deal. And by the way, most of the fans that are fans of Vic Mignogna absolutely fucking love this. Not only do most of the fans love it, but if you look at the court of public opinion, so I'll post a little image on the screen that kind of discusses this. Taylor was 18 when she attended Colossicon in Sandusky, Ohio, 2013. She was feeling ill when she got up that morning, but decided to still tag along with her friend to Mignogna's autograph line. She wasn't an avid fan of Mignogna, but her friend was, so she went so her companion would get a second item signed. Pretty common idea. When it came to their turn, Taylor said that Mignogna told her she was adorable. She didn't think much of that statement, and when he asked her if she wanted a signed photo, she thought, why not? He embraced her for a photograph, and when the moment was over, Taylor said he hugged her and then proceeded to kiss her face. Onlookers cheered. So if this had been a terrible case of sexual...
Okay, hold on. There's one thing there that he just kind of glossed over. Taylor, who identifies as queer. That does not necessarily mean gay. Reiterated that she felt extremely nauseated. And that the entire event feels gross when she thinks about it. Okay, what? You are queer. That does not mean that you don't like men. Otherwise, you'd say that you were gay or lesbian. No, you say queer. Meaning that you're basically down to fuck anything. So, no. No, I call fucking bullshit. I call fucking bullshit. Like, you are not... Or you're like, oh no, well, I was like lesbian and whatnot, so the idea of a man kissing me on the cheek is so fucking horrifying and gross. Like, no, you were queer. So, no, like, fuck you. She just realized that she's going to get more fame by saying that she was grossed out by this interaction than she was by, you know, just saying like, hey, it wasn't that bad. Felt kind of awkward because everyone cheered it. Like, just fuck this bitch. Fuck this lying bitch.
Chris cheered. So if this had been a terrible case of sexual assault, a terrible case of rape, a terrible case of foul play, wouldn't every guy or everyone...
Yeah, like, is that the photo right there? Is that the face of a woman who's fucking grossed out and nauseated because a popular, attractive man gave you a kiss on the cheek? If you were not a fan at a convention, a man like Vic Mignogna would not give you the time of fucking day. You average ass bitch.
And by the way, anytime there's a real sexual assault, anytime there's anything bad happening to a female, everybody comes in to help.
Is that a fucking ring on your ring finger? Why, are you fucking married now?
Any sort of thing, even if a man is yelling at a woman or being a little bit, high pit or a little bit high energy, people will come up to rescue her. So she had plenty of people watching. She probably, maybe it could be, let's say, at least, this is a very conservative estimate, at least 100 people watching this thing happen. And nobody had a problem with it. And the reason nobody had a problem with it is because it's not a big deal. Like, look in Europe. If you're in Europe, a common way to greet people, a common way to greet a female is to hug her and then give a kiss on the left and the right cheek. Kissing someone on the cheek is not sexual behavior. It's just a greeting. It's just friendly. But the leaders of the Me Too movement don't want things like that, because any sort of appropriate physical contact, again, not sexual, friendly contact, is there to set people to be more bonded to other people and there to create better relationships. So a handshake, a hug, the European kiss on the cheek thing.
Honestly, I think you're overthinking it, Sean. Like, you're looking at this as some grand conspiracy to destabilize existing Western culture. I honestly think that that is giving the leaders of the Me Too movement too much credit. They're just looking at normalized behavior and they want to rebrand it as unwanted sexual advances because that's how they get their money. If they could make even the most innocuous thing appear to be sexual assault, then they, as sexual assault grifters, get to say, hey, sexual assault is a huge problem. There's all kinds of cases. Now give me money, and I will be able to help minimize your risk of sexual assault. It's the same thing with all the race grifters, trying to make everything into some sort of race grift. It's the same with Anita Sarkeesian, trying to make everything freaking sexist. Why? So that major corporations will hire her as a consultant to try and make their stuff less sexist. It's a grift. That's what it is. It's not some... I mean, okay, maybe there's some element of freaking conspiracy, but the problem is, as talked about at the start of this, is that men and women not interacting with each other because the men are scared of the women. Like, that's bad for the communists. That's bad for them because they need the women to keep the men under control. A man who does not tie himself to a woman because he's following the Pence rule, or he is a Henry Cavill and he's like, yeah, I realize my career is in danger if I interact with women, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make sure there's always witnesses and there's 100% approval. I'm not going to do anything that could be construed as... Yes, because here's the thing. This bonding stuff that binds men and women together, it binds the man to the woman. If men are not binding themselves to women, then men will not sacrifice for those women, and therefore those women will not have power over those men. And therefore, this whole societal system that requires the men as the providers to sacrifice for the consumers as the women to fall apart, and the communists need that, because if the producers don't sacrifice for the consumers, then their entire communist regime falls apart because it's predicated on fucking parasites.
Those are all things that help socially bond you to the person that you're talking to, so that if anything bad happens, you'll actually help them out because you've had a physical connection, like not a sexual connection, a hug.
All right, Iron Myron. So, subsidiary faction tied to feminism at this point. Well, Me Too's always been led by the feminists, yes. Historically speaking, women tend to destabilize existing cultures. Yes, that is true. But the Me Too movement is not completely separate in the destabilization of the culture. Like, the destabilization of the culture is, hey, let's take out all cultural relevant things and replace it with the state. Like, that is what communism wants. It wants to replace religion with the state, culture with the state, where there is no religion or culture nor unifying bonds aside from the state. But the problem is communism still needs money. It still needs resources, and it requires men to provide those resources. And it extracts those resources through women. Because the biggest threat to a communist regime is a bunch of men who are not bound to women. Because men who aren't bound to women aren't going to sacrifice for society. So while women destroy cultures, they cause the fall of nations. And yes, we've seen that. Rome is like kind of the textbook example of such a thing. But the communists seem to think that when an empire falls, they can just sweep in with their ideology and it's going to take root and take over. But no. There's a cycle, which I probably need to make a video on one day, where first you start with no society. And you basically have the ultimate capitalist, anarchist, and cap society. It is ultimate free market. Everyone's just out for themselves. Everyone's fighting for something to own as individuals. Then you start to gravitate towards the more absolutist society, where in exchange for the larger protection of the group, concessions are made on freedom. And that leads to, monarchies, caste systems. And then unfortunately, people get comfortable in that because their security level is so high that they inevitably start slinking towards communism, which destroys the society. Like, essentially, that's where we're heading right now. But the problem is, once the society's destroyed, you don't bounce to communism. It never goes from freaking ANCAP to communist. It always goes ANCAP to absolutist. Because communist stuff falls apart way too bloody fast. Any ANCAPs that would join them would either just turn around and walk away as soon as they saw their hard shit going towards parasites, or they just leave, or like they die because they wouldn't have their resources. Anyway, 3 minutes to bloody go. We are about an hour into this. Oh god, these I gotta upload these segments, but let's continue.
A friendly kiss on the cheek or hand or forehead or anything. These are all just nonverbal communicators of connection. And over this innocuous behavior, they've basically taken Vic to the cleaners. He has been fired from Funimation. He has been fired from Rooster Teeth. All of his conventions in 2019 that have not occurred already, basically he's been canceled. And they basically ruined his career. And this whole thing is disgusting. Even like his professional colleagues like Neil Kaplan are sitting there on Twitter trying to defame Vic Mignogna. They're trying to say, well, Vic Mignogna was late to a panel that I was doing. Therefore, he's a rapist. This whole thing is just disgusting. And we have to see the Me Too movement as a win by the feminists. They won this. They won the ability to falsely accuse, clearly. Because even people like Christine Ford, who was completely falsely accusing Kavanaugh of raping her, got away with it. Plenty of other situations where people have falsely accused or taken innocuous behavior and said it was the worst thing in the world. Even the Harvey Weinstein stuff. Now, Harvey Weinstein may have actually been accused of rape and may have actually been convicted of rape. I haven't followed it that much, but there were a lot of women who accused him of rape because they made a deal and they didn't like that their careers were over after the deal. So I had sex with Harvey Weinstein. He made me a big star. I'm not a big star anymore because I'm 50. Well, fuck Harvey Weinstein. So they got away with it with that. If we let them get away with this anymore, they're going to keep doing it.
Okay, well, guess what? It's been a couple years. Do you know how we stopped letting them get away with it? We can't. Why? Because the authority figures who prosecute this shit, they are the ones that make the decisions. To say, we can't stop letting them get away with this. Do you even have a fucking plan for how to stop? Because I'm guessing that whatever idea you had wasn't implemented in the past 4 years. Because instead, the plan has to be, don't interact. Don't give them an excuse. Don't give them your home address. Don't give them your name. Give them nothing. Because anything you give them will be used against you. That's the situation we're in today. That is the solution. We can't let them get away with this. No, they won. So you know what we do? We do as the Russians did, and we go scorched earth. You can have this territory. You can have this land. You can have the realm of the false accusations. You can have all male to female interactions. That is your possession. It is burned and barren and salted and useless. Congratulations. That is how you win. You starve them. Because what do they need? They need sacrifice. They need men to keep making themselves vulnerable. Because if men don't make themselves vulnerable, they have nothing. And all they can do is complain that men don't make themselves vulnerable. But they've already taken the mask off. Any man who makes himself vulnerable to a woman in this day and age, he's asking for it. He's outright asking for it. And all I can do, like when I warn a man, like, hey, look, you're making yourself vulnerable. You're asking for it. And he says, no, I got this. I've taken the appropriate precautions this time. I just shake my head and go like, all right, it's your life. It's your life. The consequences go to you. I'm not going to waste my time and energy trying to save you. Eventually you will suffer enough that you will learn, or you will suffer so much that you die. I just wash my hands of the matter and walk away. Let's wrap this up.
They're going to go for the people who are the worst of us, and they're going to start attacking the best of us, which they already started doing. So the only way.
Well, no, the show. Here's the thing. Sorry, I'm going to mention this. So the people are the problem, not the politicians. No, I disagree. I disagree because the politicians, the authority figures, the cops, they are the ones that give the people power. If the politicians just said, no, this is bullshit, screw you and your insane delusions, then this would have no power and it would bounce away. No, it requires the power of authority figures to enforce. It's like blaming like Zoomers and Gen Alpha for being confused sexually. You know what happens when you're confused sexually in previous generations? The adults would say no. The adults would set you straight. Nowadays, it's the adults pushing all this stuff onto kids, and then other adults of that generation blaming the kids for being all fucked up. So no. I blame the people with the power. Maybe you could make an argument against me on that. That's entirely possible. But if the cops did not enforce this stuff, if the company executives did not throw Vic under the bus, if all these people with the power to screw over other people's lives refuse to do so, then this stuff would have no power. This stuff would have no merit. And it would die out immediately because it had no power, and that's what it's always been about. So, no. I don't blame the people. You give people the ability to gain money and fame by throwing someone else under the bus, they're going to do that. People gravitate towards incentives. You don't basically reward a pit bull every time it mauls a toddler and then blame the pit bull for mauling the toddler. You're the one who gave it a steak every single time it brought home a baby skull. That's on you.
Around this is to start saying no to everybody, even the people that you hate. Certainly you can change some of your behavior, but I don't know how much of your behavior should be changed. Should we not be allowed to greet women with a hug anymore? Should we not be allowed to handshake anymore? Should we not be allowed to have normal fucking conversations? I don't know if we can comply to that.
We can, quite easily. We can absolutely comply to that, and it's been quite successful.
Because if we comply to that, we destroy any sort of human connection that we would have, and then we lose.
No. We're not destroying any human connection we can have. We're instead forming relationships that are not based on power and usury, but actually on mutual benefit. Like, women have always had this power. It's just now that shit's ripped off and exposed, and men are realizing, you know what? Maybe I need to reconsider how quickly I give away my power and how easily I give away my power. Like, men are actually finding their own value because they're realizing how easily they can be exploited and thrown under the bus. So, no. This, unfortunately, has actually been a good thing because it's exposed men to all the bullshit that they've had to deal with and just took as normal up until this point.
But at the very least, and especially as a part of the MGTOWs, is that we say no. I want due process. Innocent until proven guilty. And so until this person has been convicted in a...
No, fuck. Innocent until proven guilty. The court systems are corrupt. Like, nowadays, it's fucking guilty and fuck your innocence. I say you're guilty. It is guilty and you cannot convince otherwise. That's the modern state of this shit. Like, there is no more guilty until proven innocent. It is guilty, period. You're accused, you're guilty. So all you can do is minimize the ability for others to accuse you. Ghost in plain sight. Just be completely unremarkable. You cannot be accused if no one knows who the fuck you are. You ditch your social media. You hide behind an avatar. That's all you need to do. You fuck off. You get away from this and you make sure that they can't have it. It's like I mean, to pull a Death Note reference. You can't be killed by the Death Note if no one knows your face or name. You can't be accused if no one knows your face or name. The more prominent you make yourself, the more public you make yourself, the more vulnerable you are. So the solution is just don't be that. But yes, that was too much for Sean, because now he's showing his face, and heck, at the very least I know his first name, and probably wouldn't be hard to find his last name. And now his face is out there. So, yeah. Apparently, the allure of fame is worth the price. Can't wait till Venti starts pulling some bullshit on you. 30 seconds to go. Let's wrap this up.
Court of law, they are technically innocent. And we can't sit here and destroy people's careers over just an accusation. Certainly there are people who deserve their careers to be destroyed, but those people need to be done. It needs to be done so after a conviction. Not this nonsense where he doesn't want to sign yaoi porn because he's a Christian, or because he kissed some girls on the cheek as a friendly kiss, or hug people friendly in a friendly way. This is just gross, and I'm going to keep repeating myself, so I guess I'll just end the video. Like, comment, subscribe. See you next time. Bye.
Yeah. You can't like, comment, or subscribe because this video has long since been removed from his channel. Probably because he mentions MGTOW in support of it, and he no longer does. But holy crap, that was over an hour for that particular segment. So I'm just going to end record right here. Oh, boy. Okay, well, the ice has melted in my drink, and we're over an hour and a half into this. I don't know if there's anyone scheduled to go after me at this point. So we might go through 3, or we might just go through one more. Admittedly, since I can't really download more of these, I do kind of want to milk them. But if you guys are enthusiastic enough, maybe we could try to do 3. Although I think this one's kind of long. How long?
So I thought I'd take some time today and talk about
13 minutes. Yeah, given how much of a rant I've been on, this is going to take at least an hour. I'm getting another drink, guys. Let me at least give you some music that tied you over here. 3 more. Oh, that'll be late. Let's see. Do I have anything going on in the morning? I do have to be out in the morning, so at the very least, we'll see how many we get through after. We'll call it after the next one. So in the meantime, I'm gonna give you one of the new compositions I've been working on. This one's new composition number 577, which is retro 8-bit. I've never heard this one before, so hopefully it's good. I gotta get a drink, guys. I will be right back. So that was composition 577. I mean, that wasn't bad. I'm definitely, I haven't done any really quality control on these ones. I just produced a heck of a lot. How many do I have here? Yeah, I've got literally 58-bit compositions that I haven't listened to yet to sort through. I was trying to figure out some for like the Warband Contra game. So I figured, hey, run some stuff through Ava, see what comes out. So I wouldn't say that was terrible. Definitely had like kind of a neat core, but at the very least, I'd want to remix it. 7 out of 10? Heck, I'd say 7 out of 10 is pretty generous. The show, Gray, can you steal Brittany from Sean? Not at my current sub count, I can't. If I got to like 800,000 plus subs, then yeah, probably. But considering she's probably only with him like due to clout chasing, no. At my current sub count, no. Now, if you took away the sub counts and it was just like update application later, thank you. But if it was just like me and him physically, and you had to rely on us like with our physiques, like if he was with her at a bar and fame didn't matter, physique wise, looks wise, I'd say I'm better than him. Maybe not by a lot, but I don't think it'd be an exaggeration to say that I'm a bit better looking than him. Like if he's a 5, I'm a 6, something like that. At which point in the sub count will I sell out, or for what amount of money? Okay. Okay, I guess I'll honestly answer that. Okay, so sub count. The problem is I need to turn the sub count into money. Because, like, I don't. I mean, I like numbers going up, so I like the sub count as a thing. And I do see, oh, hey, sub count going up. That means I'm doing something right. But at the same time, it's like, what's the point of a sub count if I can't turn it into cash? So I guess the real question is, for what amount of money would I sell out? So I have to think, like, if someone showed up at my door tomorrow and said, here, you have to abandon your ideology and make blue pill content. Here's the suitcase full of cash. Well, the thing is, it's not like this is making me a ton of cash to begin with. So, financially, that's something. I got stupid ass student loan to pay. So I got that millstone around my neck. It probably wouldn't be much, I'll be honest. Like someone comes up and offers me, hey, 50 grand to sell out. I'd be hard pressed to say no. Like, sad to say it, but you offer me 50 grand cash right away, one lump sum, I'd be hard pressed to say no. You offer me like $500,000, enough to wipe out my debts and get a cheap house, I'd probably have to say yes to that. I figure, like, full disclosure, guys, like that's probably what it would take. Unfortunate. I wish I could say it would be higher. I wish I could say that my principles wouldn't be that high, but bad decisions in life have fucked me to the point where that's how cheap it'd be. 75 grand to sell out, never produce again, or 150 grand to cuck out and still try to produce content. Unfortunately, yeah. You offered me 75 grand to disappear off the internet, I would. 150 grand to cuck out. Yeah, you'd get years of content out of me for that price. And that's unfortunate. I don't like that that's the truth, but I'll be honest, guys, that's what it would take. I wish it wasn't that case. I wish I could say that I'm so fucking principled that I could say fuck you to that kind of money, but I can't. The thing is, Henok, I'm not powerful enough to even have someone consider offering me that kind of money to sell out. Like, I got 35 in chat, and y'all are good amount of dedicated guys. But you look at the sub count, you look at the view count. I don't have the influence for the people with that kind of money to say, hey, I'm willing to hand you tens of thousands of dollars to sell it. That's why I'm being honest. Like, guys, if my message suddenly shifts, and I'm going to say this now as kind of a fail-safe, but yeah, if my message suddenly shifts and it sounds like I'm selling out, fucking dump my ass. Like, fucking dump my ass and save yourselves and fucking move on, because I don't think it's going to happen. But if you suspect it's happening, like, don't fucking hesitate. May the light of Manic save me? Well, one can hope. But at the very least, like, as long as I don't have any incentive to be dishonest with you guys, I will be honest. And that's about as honest as I'm going to be right here. So, yeah. I just hate the fucking honest answer. So I'm going to have another drink and then we're going to start this next section. Sir Yeetus can be saved. Sir Yeetus don't need to be saved. Eat's in a far better position than I am because he didn't make near as many mistakes in life, so. Oop. Try not to spill this shit all over myself. You got a Cash App? No, I do not have a Cash App because I'm Canadian and Cash App hates Canada. If you want to donate, the StreamYard link is pinned at the top. It takes PayPal and no, it does not take Skrill anymore because Skrill doxes people. I think I'm eligible for credit cards though, so I think you can pay via credit card on there. I don't know if I have that set up or not, but it takes PayPal, and PayPal hasn't fucked me over yet. And I'll be honest, any money that goes through that particular PayPal usually just goes to pay for the Warband Conan server and Minecraft server. So, and oh yeah, and the StreamYard sub. So yeah, like basically you're just keeping the stream going without me having to pay out of my own pocket for that kind of stuff. It's not like I'm turning a profit from this, nor do I really have the goal of doing that. Move overseas, start over? Well, that's the idea. Like, the idea is to be overseas, working accounting within the next 5 to 10 years. Like, that's the longer term objective. So right now, I'm just trying to take care of my debts, build up my finances here, and then fuck off overseas at the best opportunity. Hopefully society will hold together that long. If not, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll see some of y'all at the pearly gates or in the cannibal-filled wasteland that will become North America. Hey, guys, don't feel like you have to donate. Like, I'm not saying this kind of stuff to try to guilt you into donating. I'm just trying to like be full disclosure honest with you when you ask like those kinds of questions. Because again, I don't feel like putting on an act. Like I'm not. This is probably one of the few places that I can actually be honest with people. So I'm going to be honest with people here. If I have to put on some kind of fucking act, well, then I'm going to do it somewhere where it will actually benefit me. Hey, thanks, Gem Power. Appreciate it. Which country? Philippines. Divorce is illegal in the Philippines, so move to the Philippines and make sure that I'm well established enough to attract a bride, and then start bride hunting, particularly by talking to the fathers of families. Like that would be my objective. Because the only places that where divorce is illegal are the Philippines and Vatican City. And I don't think I'm getting into Vatican City, so Philippines it is. What do I think of Afghanistan? I'm thinking that due to the color of my skin, I will not be welcome in Afghanistan. So it will probably will not be a very healthy environment for me to try to integrate, nor try to raise a family. At the very least, I know the color of my skin is valued in the Philippines, so that's an advantage when it comes to bride hunting. Exactly, Shinobi 1. Like, it's essential to get a Western job, like an accounting job that I can do remotely before going to the Philippines, because if I try to work locally there, I'm only going to get paid locally, and I don't think it's going to be enough to attract a bridal family. Maybe enough to survive on. Definitely not enough to start a family with. You can get me a Mormon wife. If it requires me to move to the U.S., which it probably will, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be entirely against that, but divorce is still legal in the U.S. So I'd be a little more sketchy about starting a family in the U.S. than I would in the Philippines. Amish wife is superior? Yeah, probably. I mean, closest I've met up here are Mennonites. Afghanistan is chill. I mean, like, I'll take you at your word for that, and I'm surprised by it. I had to chill in the tea and coffee shops for a while. Well, I do like my tea, so wouldn't object to that, but if I'm to maintain my current industry, which is like construction, yeah, probably not going to have a lot of time to chill in tea and coffee shops, but who knows? Hey, Shinobu, let's face it, guys. Any woman is good as long as they are loyal. You know what? Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like that's the thing. If you're like, look, if you are a virgin, debt free, minimal to no tattoos, and most importantly, loyal. And let's be honest, like just healthy. You don't have to be like freaking super fit. Maybe you can have like a little bit of chub on you. But so long as you're in that like healthy range, like you fit those 5 requirements, like, that's all. Like, do I really give a shit about fucking ethnicity or hair color or where you fit on the fucking scales? Like, no. It's like, are you going to be a good mother to the kids, and are you going to be good for the family unit? Like those are the conditions. Yeah, a loyal woman, Augustine. Exactly. That's why the Philippines, because you can't trust any kind of woman to be loyal. You have to look at the society that she's allowed to do shit. because a loyal woman in the Philippines can easily be a disloyal woman in the United States. The woman might be the same, but the legal circumstances and environment around her, that's what changes. Let's see. Women, you wouldn't recommend Brazil, but there is a bunch of cheap land. Well, it's not maybe a terrible idea. I have to just think of how to use the land. Like when you're thinking about stuff like this, you have to think about what's the long term objective. Because okay, like you have the land, but if you're going to do remote work, then well, a Wi-Fi connection is somewhat required. Like, does one want the land just for the sake of having the land? To maybe try to be self-sufficient with farming? How close is it to civilization? Having land, like it's a nice idea, but you gotta think about what exactly are you using it for. What country do they still die in childbirth the most? I don't know. Let's see. Highest infant mortality rate. Uh, it looks like Central Africa. 2020 mortality rate under 5 per 1,000 live births. Apparently, the highest number is Somalia with 114.6 per 1,000. So that's over a 10% mortality rate. So Somalia, Nigeria, Chad, Sierra Leone, Central African Republic, they all have an infant mortality rate of 10% or higher, or an under 5 mortality rate of 10% or higher. Then there's South Sudan, Guinea, Mali, Lesotho, Benin, Burkina Faso, DR Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Liberia, Ivory Coast, Niger, Guinea. So like we're getting into like the range of the 7 to 8%. It's yeah. I'd probably talk about like top 10 most depressing lists on Wikipedia right here. Even Vietnam's fucking 2 out of 10. Well, 2%. Not 2 out of 10. That's 2 out of 100. Brazil is 14.7. For those of you keeping score. Out of 1,000. Where am I going to... The next Canada on the list here. So the UK is 4.2 out of 1,000, so 0.4%. Israel's 3.6 out of 1,000. Apparently San Marino is 1.8 out of 1,000, and that's like the highest. So where the heck's the United States on this list? Okay, Canada is apparently just 5 even, so 0.5% infant mortality rate in Canada. USA on this. United States is 6.3 out of 1,000. So, I don't know. There's your answer. Close enough to cities if you need them and as connection, but far enough that nobody will be a problem. All right, I guess I'd add Brazil. That's the thing. I have to think of 2 separate lists. One would be my family list, and one would be my MGTOW list. Brazil, I could probably put on the MGTOW list, but the Philippines is the only country on my family list right now. The fireworks busting tonight, not where I am. They're not. Everything's so dry that chances are the fireworks would set off just massive forest fires, and there's already a bunch burning, so we got to be careful. The internet's mostly dead anyways. if you're working remotely, you need the internet. But regardless, what the heck even, what is this one? Oh, we're the good guys. I can't. All right, let's start this next segment, guys. We're 2 hours in. We'll probably go 4 hours tonight. So, we're back to looking at Think Before You Sleep, and this is archived episode 32, titled We're the Good Guys. Let's just jump into it. Make sure the playback speed is appropriate. 1.5. We'll start them off at 1.4. Let's begin.
So I thought I'd take some time today and talk about, well, what allows groups like Antifa to exist, or what's the philosophy behind a group like that? In order to talk about this, I'm going to have to explain John Locke and Thomas Hobbes. Both philosophers were around the 1600s. And if you haven't heard this already, because, well, these are pretty famous philosophers. Thomas Hobbes believed that all people were evil, and John Locke believed that all people were good. And this argument goes back and forth, and we've...
That seems kind of curious. Okay, so one thinks that they're all evil, and the other thinks that they're all good. I mean, I guess I should put my own opinion on the table before we go too far into this. But I view good and evil as subjective. And this is why. So let us say that you are passing by a tree, and that tree has leaves on it, and you are walking on grass. Now you reach out and you pull a leaf off of the tree, and you allow it to fall to the ground. Now, from the perspective of the tree, you have damaged it. You have cut off a source of energy and nutrition. It can't absorb oxygen through that leaf. It can't perform photosynthesis with that leaf. It invested moisture and energy into creating that leaf that you have now robbed it of. To you, to the tree, you and your action of tearing the leaf off are evil. Now, you let it fall on the ground. There is grass in the ground. That leaf is going to decay. And the nutrients that the leaf gives off when it decays will nourish the grass. The shade will maintain the moisture of the grass and perhaps shelter it from an oppressive sun for a time. So you have done evil to the tree, and yet you have done good for the grass. So was your action good or evil? It entirely depends on perspective. Good, so far as I'm concerned, is an action which benefits you. Evil is an action which harms you. Neutral would be something which doesn't affect you. So, to believe that all people are evil would be to believe that all people will take action that harms you. That's objectively false. Like, that would basically be saying that every human is better off living in isolation rather than in any sort of community. No, that is not true at all. But to say that every human is good, no. There's tons of people that will willingly do harm to you in order to further themselves. To say that every human is good, every human is beneficial to you, no, I'd say that's also objectively false. Some people are going to benefit you. Some people are going to harm you. Sometimes people will be beneficial to you and harmful to you at different points in your life, in their lives even. Like the guy who was beneficial for you for a couple decades, yeah, he might have absolutely screwed himself and now become a liability, now become actively harmful. I hear these stories where there's these guys who they've known a dude for decades, and he used to be really good, but then he fell hard into drugs, and now he's not the same person. It's like, okay, you need to cut that bugger out of your life. I know you've got a long-term emotional bond from the times he was good, but that's a liability now. It's like if your dog is rabid, you don't continue to try to hug and cuddle it because, oh, but we had such good memories of when it was a puppy. It's like, no, it's infected with a sick disease. Put it down. And you can't put down rabid humans. You just got to cut them out of your life. But if you continue to support people that are an active detriment to you, just because they were beneficial to you decades prior, well, I mean, you can do that, but you are absolutely screwing yourself over, and you're willingly accepting evil into your life. So, I mean, yeah, bit of minor rant here, but yeah, I don't think that any human or any group of humans is necessarily good or evil in any sort of absolute. They are both. And it's being able to make a judgment call one way or another that allows you to survive your interactions with them. Am I utilitarian, the show? Yeah. Yeah, I'd say I'm utilitarian. Like, probably makes me a cold bastard that way, but I do try to judge people on how much value they'll be to me. Like, I didn't really have any of those, like, childhood friend tropes that you grow up with for decades on end. I ended up bouncing around a lot when I was younger, so I'm used to people being in my life for like 4 to 5 years at most. And then circumstances change and I have to deal with a group of new people. So, yeah, I'm pretty utilitarian. If I think someone's going to be useful, then yeah, they'll benefit around me. If I think someone's going to be a liability, then I just let them fend for themselves. There's no need to actively harm people. Just withdraw support and let them deal with their own shit. So, yeah, I'd say that qualifies as utilitarian. Might not be the nicest way to live, but it's the reason why I have money and most people around me don't.
And it's been at least around for 400 years, because it's probably the case that both answers are correct.
Oh. Okay. Actually, no. This is interesting. Pedophilia is bad, not evil. No. No. I'm going to definitely categorize that in the evil category. Because if you do that kind of stuff to children, you are messing up the younger generation. And I'm like, from a purely utilitarian standpoint, the amount of children that grow up to adopt lifestyles that don't breed directly correlates with the amount of child abuse. There is overwhelmingly uncomfortable amounts of evidence that point to a non-breeding lifestyle correlating to some kind of sexual trauma during childhood. So, no, I'm going to put down pedophilia as evil because you are screwing over my future by screwing over future generations of children, which are going to be necessary for society to continue to maintain at its current or an even more advanced level in the future. So, no. Personally, I put pedophilia as 100% evil. Like, it is the ultimate selfish act to destroy future generations and to also sacrifice, like, just from a tax-paying perspective. You need the children of today to be productive decades down the line in order to support your retirement, your government benefits, your fucking old age handouts. If you are sacrificing that for you and for everyone else in your generation for some brief sexual gratification, I don't know how much more evil you get. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the matter. Like, fuck pedophiles. Like, and I don't mean the fucking good. Like, screw them. Fucking tie them to stakes and burn them in the public square as an example. If they can't minimize their fucking damage, then they need to be removed. Because they are a danger to the present and the future. So, no. They're not just bad. Like, from a, like, I'm just speaking from utilitarian. Fuck all morality and fucking sensibility. From a purely utilitarian perspective, they are evil. Even if you had that fucking urge yourself. Like, you'd have to keep that shit fucking restricted to fucking fantasies. Because the instant you bring it into reality, is you actually harm a living being or invoke that on a living being, no. You're committing evil, and your society should take every measure possible to purge you for the sake of its future. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Kind of severe.
And you can never really be too right about this situation. And I think of it this way. I've been going into a lot of different personality tests and trying to see how specific we can get certain people down. Because if you can know your personality type, if you can know what you're naturally geared towards, then you can much more accurately determine where you should be placed. And so if you're someone who is super, super introverted, you probably shouldn't pick an extroverted job. Vice
So Shinobi 1, what's the best system? A top-down approach robs the bottom of what they perceive is needed. Base-up system robs the whole of everything it could be. Middle management is always a production siphon. I've mentioned this earlier, but I am in favor of an absolutist monarchy system. I definitely don't like democracy, but I also have trouble with republics, though I may be able to be convinced if someone was able to explain their perspective in more detail. But any system where the people in power are voted in results in a dilution of responsibility. Because here's the thing. You're in Canada. Trudeau does something beyond freaking stupid. Who do you blame for that? Trudeau himself? Well, he was appointed by the Liberal Party. Do you blame the Liberal Party? Well, the Liberal Party only has power because they were voted into power. So do you blame the voters? Well, that's a good chunk of the population right there. So what? Is that who you blame? Is that who you take your vengeance on? It's so diluted as to be basically irrelevant. You can't do anything to punish people for making poor decisions because everyone can pass the buck on to something else. Now, let's say instead you have a monarchy. You have an individual directly responsible for your chunk of territory, and they answer to people higher up. So eventually it goes to, so if you're like, oh, you know what? Screw these taxes here. Let's go after the local lord. And the local lord goes, hey, look, I'm under pressure by the king, guys. I can't do shit about this. I'm already living on freaking scraps. And then you're like, all right, well, then we go for the king. Like, it goes up. It feeds up. The responsibility goes, and the king goes like, you know what? I need to keep the population pacified so that they don't rebel against me. I need to be a decent person. I need to actually manage the responsibilities of being in power with also my accountability as the sole monarch. Your prime minister, your president, your speaker of the house, or whatever, they have no fucking accountability. They can always pass the buck on to the voters. And therefore, they're basically immune to any sort of revolt. Whereas you get a king in charge, you get a monarch in charge, that's one person who's actually responsible for shit, and they're constantly looking over their shoulder. They're constantly trying to minimize how many enemies they have, because anytime they manage to fuck it up, anytime they step over the line, they are fucked. Because then they got an angry mob and rebellious lords looking to take their place. So, shame the public about their actions. They're susceptible to shame influences. Well, I mean, that'd be nice. But you have to target a larger amount of people and then get them to vote against their own incentives. All that you need to do to get the public to vote for you is promise them a slightly better life than they currently have, or to not damage their existing life any more than it already is. And even then, like shame, like, no. I don't trust shame near as much as I trust the fear of torture and death. That is why I advocate the monarchy system, because I think that a monarch would be more afraid of the population rising up than any current system in the West. Any of these parliamentary, Congress, presidential, whatever. They don't fear the populace because the populace can be fed the fucking copium that they can just vote better ones in a couple of years. Now, I'd much rather the populace feel like, look, if we don't do something now, we are fucked. And it's not going to get better. I'd rather drive the population into a corner where they need to act than feed them on a steady supply of copium that keeps them pacified. I think that kind of threat is the only way that authority can be kept in check. And that this idea of voting responsibly is a fucking pipe dream held by idealists. Maybe you could convince me otherwise with a persuasive argument. But that's my 2 cents as it currently stands. Anyway. Let us continue. We're only 1 minute into a 13-minute video, and I've already gone on a couple tangents because what Sean says is that fucking irrelevant.
First, if you're super extroverted, you probably shouldn't pick an introverted job. And that's one of our more basic skills. Introverted means that you're at rest when you are around, or when you're by yourself. Extroverted means you're at rest when you're around other people. Now, there's no real right answer. There's we need some people to be by themselves or be good at being by themselves. We need some people who can be good with other people. Well, the problem comes in with these is being too far to one side. And so if you're super, super extroverted, you're that person who can't be by themselves. If you're super, super introverted, you're someone who's so afraid that you probably can't even walk outside, or you're so antisocial that nobody wants to be around you.
Is that really extroverted or introverted, really? Like, my understanding, which, hey, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but my understanding has been that with introverted people, dealing with other people is fucking exhausting. I would classify myself as introverted, and it's like, look, if I gotta go out and interact with people all bloody day, constantly communicate, constantly try to deal with them and manage them, it's exhausting. And all I want to do when I relax is fucking sit down, maybe have a snack, read a book, or take a nap. Like, that's what I want to do during my downtime. I don't want to have a fucking conversation with someone. I want to take a nap. I want to read a book. Like, maybe eat something kind of nice. Like, that's about it. Now, my understanding is that extroverts are the opposite way. Like, they want to spend their relaxation time talking with someone else. And what is most stifling to them is being alone. Like to them, like having to grind out something solo without being able to interact with another person would be just as exhausting as having to talk with other people and constantly communicate would be for me. So they're constantly going out and going to parties and socializing in order to recharge their batteries, whereas I'm sitting at home with a couple miniatures in order to recharge mine. So, like, the idea that an introvert is too afraid to go out, no. No, it's just that it's like maybe there's some, but I wouldn't classify those as introverts per se. I'd say that they've got actual problems. An introvert would just find that shit bloody exhausting. Like me, like I'm not about to go out to a party with 30 plus people. I can appreciate it for what it is, and I'm not going to say that anyone else is wrong for wanting to go to one. But I'd much rather have a night in, like maybe watching some random videos on YouTube or painting miniatures. Heck, doing both. Like legit, guys, if I wasn't talking to you right now, I would have my freaking miniatures in front of me painting. Like that. That would be my evening, and I'd enjoy it. Meanwhile, I can't stand being alone or being with people. Help. I guess all I could recommend is see how chatbots do it for you, because like you're technically alone and don't have to deal with all the complexities of people, but you also aren't necessarily alone because you are socializing. Like all I can recommend is try video game companions and chatbots. That's about the most I could recommend for someone who just doesn't like people or being alone. So hopefully that helps, Camerahead. I don't mean to laugh that you've actually got seriously, but that's a very unique circumstance, and hopefully that advice helps. But let's just keep going here.
And so what would happen is if you're going to be a psychologically healthy person, it's not bad to be introverted, it's not bad to be extroverted, but if you're too far to the extremes, it would be very useful if you learned some of these skills of the other side. And so if you're an extreme introvert, and I used to be an extreme introvert and I had to learn this stuff, is it would help quite a bit if you spent some time absorbing the skills of an extrovert. Because if you don't do that, you're basically, I mean, you better be very, very good at what you do, because otherwise you're going to be very socially isolated. Because if you can't play the social game, you're not very valuable to many people unless you are just horrendously good at some skill, which is not very likely for you.
You don't need to necessarily be extremely good at the social game. You just need to not be outright offensive to people. I mean, I wouldn't classify myself as an extrovert by any means, but I'm still able to socialize and be friendly with people, even if they recognize that, well, I'm not the kind of guy that you invite to parties. You can still be decent. You can still have basic social interaction skills. And what do you really need for a lot of that outside of maybe engaging in multi-person hobbies or work? Wow, Camerahead. So you can comfortably socialize and you can be alone with your thoughts, just that both exhaust you. Oh shit, man! I That's the thing. Without knowing what your recovery action is, I can't give any advice. But I'd say, yeah, you gotta. Because it sounds like if both exhaust you, then I guess you're just gonna have to get a lot of sleep. Because I don't know how you'd recover if neither of those things recharge you. Sorry, not really a not really a psychologist here. I'm just a freaking purple skinned, white haired ghost on the internet wearing a toque.
Though I guess it could happen. And if you're super extroverted, you're someone who is so so needy for other people that you can't possibly be by yourself. You can't possibly self-reflect. And of course, if you can't self-reflect, then you'll repeat the same cycles of mistakes over and over again. So the introverted people need to learn how to be around people, at least just a little bit. The extroverted people need to learn how to be by themselves. It could be this case. You're like 100% introverted, and maybe you gear yourself to be 90% introverted, and you're 100% extroverted, and so you gear yourself to be 90% extroverted, and that's enough to take you away from psychosis. That's enough to take you away from the edge. But of course, if you're going to invest into these different traits, it does take quite a while. For me to go from an extreme introvert to be barely passable sociable, it took me like 3 to 5 years or so. And to be decent at extroverted communication and stuff like that, to be decent around people, it's taken me maybe 5 to 8 years or so. But it's highly worth it because there's a lot of economic benefit you can get from that, and there's a lot of different.
Okay, but how? Okay, Sean, you were a yoga teacher for years on end. Like, was that during your extreme introvert phase? Because, like, I'm sorry, I cannot picture someone who classify as an extreme introvert getting a teaching job. The timeline of Think Before You Sleep expands, and it's even more confusing than before. But let's keep going.
Useful friend.
But yeah, camera head, like, do try to get like a decent amount of sleep. I'm not exactly one to talk because I'm lucky if I get like 5+ hours of sleep most nights. But when you can, like, try to get 6 to 8 hours, or if you can enjoy like that sleep time, go for that. But beyond that, maybe try to find some activity that allows you to like recover without knowing what stimulates you personally. I can't say. But if you have some kind of hobby that you enjoy doing and doesn't exhaust you, maybe dedicate some time to that. I don't know. Like, that's a fairly unique case. I don't really know what to advise for that. So hopefully sleep and hobbies is enough. Let's keep going.
Friendships you can get from changing your temperament. As much I would probably imagine it's like that on the extroverted side, though I haven't done too much looking into that, and I haven't experienced it myself, so I can't comment on what would happen if an extreme extrovert became more introverted. I just know that's probably a thing that you should do. And so, of course, this spectrum works on the good and evil scale because good will.
I think I've known one extreme extrovert. It's the kind of guy who really does not consider anyone else in terms of their behavior nor reflect on it. And this guy, like, I'd say he qualifies as an extreme extrovert, but all he's managed to do right now is just basically make a lot of people that fucking despise him. And yet, for some reason, also just can't seem to be able to cut ties with the dude. Which I personally shake my head at. Like, if someone was that much of a liability to me, I just block their fucking number and move on. But I don't know. I just try not to pry into other people's lives too much. I just listen to what they tell me and then wonder at why they can't take the obvious solution. Let's keep going.
Might be like introverted, evil might be like extroverted or something like that. You can put them on the same end. It's not that I'm saying that they're directly related. This is the side example. So you have one thing on one end, one thing on the other end. If you are too good, that's not a good thing. If you are too evil, that's not a good thing. Like, one of the things I hate quite a lot is when you watch different movies and TV shows. Like,
okay, what the ever loving fuck? If you're too good, that's not a thing. If you're too evil, again, like, I'm one who is fairly relative. It's like, who are you being evil towards? Who are you being good towards? Like, there's a good number of people out there that I am 1000% okay with being evil towards all the time. Like, if these people regard me as nothing but pure evil to them, that is good. I'm totally okay with that. Too good? Well, that's the thing. Cultimus, like, a too good. I would say that's someone who sacrifices too much for others. Like, someone who is so much of a benefit for everyone around them that they themselves are sacrificed and they have no. They can't say no. Like, anyone asks them for something, they immediately go yes, and so they end up sacrificing. They never draw a line. They never make boundaries. That's what I would say is someone who is too good, is someone who is easily taken advantage of. Whereas someone who is too evil is someone who is constantly requiring others to sacrifice for them. Let's see, maybe he'll have a point here.
Harry Potter. Let's say Harry Potter's.
Oh god, and of course it's Harry Potter. Literally, I fucking click play, and the first words out of his mouth are fucking Harry Potter. Okay, you know what? Fuck all the nuance. Let's see what goddamn delusions he's gonna drive through.
Big one. Voldemort's not a good villain. Now, Voldemort's supposed to be this caricature of Hitler. And the reason he's not a good villain is because he's not very likable. The only thing he has is power. And if all you have is power, well, you know,
When the fuck did Voldemort become a caricature of Hitler? Like, I'm serious. When the fuck did Voldemort become a fucking caricature of Hitler? Like what? He doesn't like the Muggle-borns? Like, is that it? He advocates for like the fucking racial purity of wizards? Like, maybe? That's the thing. Like, what he actually stands for, what his ideology is, we're never introduced to that. It's all fucking hearsay. If he's a bad villain, it's because J.K. Rowling doesn't know how to write good villains in a fucking children's book. Like, it's a book aimed at bloody young adults. You may as well be criticizing the villains of fucking isekai novels. There's no nuance or complexity to be had. He's the bad guy to be defeated by the hero. That's it. You're not meant to fucking sympathize with him. You're not meant to empathize with him. Exactly, and he's not a pure blood wizard. Like the allegory for him being fucking Hitler. Hitler was not about fucking purity of blood either. He had his own shit, which, because this is going on YouTube, I'm not going to get into. But saying that Voldemort is Wizard Hitler? Like, that proves that you don't know jack shit about Hitler. Exactly. They're meant to be punching bags. Like, why is Voldemort a bad person? Because he's against Muggle-born wizards. What is the target demographic of fucking Harry Potter? Non-magical people who want to live in a magical world and wish every fucking day that they would be discovered as magical and whisked away to fucking magical boarding school where they could learn magic. So yeah, the idea that the villain is someone who doesn't want them to be a part of the magical world, yes, that's upsetting. So yeah, that's why Voldemort doesn't like the fucking Muggleborns. Because the majority of the fucking population who reads Harry Potter are fucking Muggleborns. It's like Handsome Jack in Borderlands 2. Why is Handsome Jack the villain? Because he hates Vault Hunters. Who are you playing as in Borderlands 2? A Vault Hunter. Surprise, surprise. The villain is someone who fucking hates you. Does he have a good reason to? Doesn't fucking matter. He's the villain. See if he actually has a fucking point that is remotely. I'm out of ice. I'm sorry, guys. My fucking throat is getting scratchy, and I'm out of ice. I'm getting some fucking ice, because like hell I'm drinking lukewarm liquor.
You may be very, very good by yourself, but it only takes two of somebody else.
Enjoy your liquor making ASMR for a moment. and the whole fucking argument, like, I'm sorry, like, you're gonna have to bear with my fucking Harry Potter rant for another bloody minute before we continue. But the whole thing with fucking pureblood wizards just seems kind of bloody weird to me, because, like, what the heck is the deal with bloody wizard genealogy here? Like, first of all, there are apparently so few pure blood wizards in the Harry Potter world that basically every pure blood wizard was interrelated to one another. And this is where it gets even weirder to me, because, okay, if you have wizards that can be spontaneously born from Muggle parents, i.e. Hermione Granger, who I am somewhat convinced was J.K. Rowling's self-insert, if I'm being completely honest here. Okay, so you have wizards spontaneously born, let's assume via some kind of mutation, to non-magical parents. Where did the first wizards come from? Like, were they two separate groups of humanoids? Well, that's never brought up. It has to be, from everything that I've read of Harry Potter, and I read a decent amount. I didn't read volume 8 or whatever, fuck that shit. But I read the 7 main books, plus the history of Quidditch, plus Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Okay, so, like there's my fucking Harry Potter pedigree or whatever. But if wizards are born to Muggle parents, then that, in turn, would mean to me that the first wizards were originally born to non-magical parents. And that wizardry, magical aptitude, whatever the fuck you call it, is some kind of genetic mutation that apparently just pops up in random people. Yeah, David Graham, nerd, whatever. I fucking started Harry Potter basically when I was 10, 11. I grew up with that shit. So, if all pureblood wizards were born to Muggle parents at some point in the past, because I guarantee you, if you traced back wizard ancestry, so eventually you'd get some kind of non-magical parentage. How many generations does one need to be a wizard before they're considered pure blood, quote unquote? Like seriously, okay, like, so let's use the example. Hermione Granger, okay, she is considered a mudblood because she's born to Muggle parents. Fine. But what happens if she, let's say, got together with Draco Malfoy, as some ships have put them as, and had a kid? You know what? Fuck it. No, she go with Ron Weasley, and Ron Weasley's a pureblood wizard. His fucking parents are wizards. Yeah, she got together with Ron Weasley. Is their kid a pureblood wizard by fucking standards of Voldemort? Like, legit question. When is one considered a pureblood wizard? The first wizard probably used the club. Fuck, I don't know. Like, okay, like the whole fucking wizard thing was like, oh, hey, you need a magic wand. What is it? Well, it's, wood, and it's got to be wrapped around a core made out of either fucking phoenix feather, dragon heartstring, or unicorn tail hair. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they went with the fucking phoenix feathers or unicorn tail hair, because good luck having an Unga Debunga wizard take out a fucking dragon. How the fuck did they take out dragons regularly enough? And what the fuck is a heartstring anyway? You mean like an artery? What defines a fucking artery? Or how many heartstrings come out of a dragon heart? What's the biology there? No. I'm willing to bet it was fucking unicorn tail hairs and phoenix feathers for the most part. If you inbred them, what's the thing, Cultimus? Like, as revealed in, what was it? Was it Harry Potter, 5 or 6? I think it was Yeah, 5. Harry Potter 5, Order of the Phoenix. Like, they reveal that, yeah, basically all pureblood wizards are interbred to a certain point. But then, like, but how many generations of fucking pedigree do you need? Is it like dogs? Like, how many pedigrees of poodle does one need to be a pureblood poodle? There's no fucking wolf poodle origin. All dogs are descended from wolves. Like, how many generations back do you need to be a wizard with no muggle parentage before you're considered a pureblood? That question's never answered. I notice I've dropped like half my fucking viewers when I went on this fucking Harry Potter rant, but fuck it. Which was incapable of hitting home run. No, exactly. It's crazy fucking. Did it mean like a tendon in the heart? I don't know, random Gen Z. They said dragon heartstring was one of the three core variables to make a magic wand. Yeah, magic in Harry Potter is pretty volatile. You need a lot of control to not go apeshit with it. That is true. Like, as we've seen, like when someone just has raw magic, basically shit that they want to happen kind of happens, whether or not they actually think it should happen or not. I think Harry Potter sucks too. Like it sucks when you break it down, and I'll admit there's various chapters in the books that I read once, and then in every subsequent read through I just skipped right over them. Like the fucking Valentine's Day arc in book 2, skipped right the fuck over that shit. 100%. So yeah, enough to stabilize the genetics, but what's stable? Like, I've never heard of a muggle child being born to a wizard. Apparently there's squibs who have enough connection with magic to be aware of it, but not enough to manipulate it. And that's always a weird thing too. Like, what the fuck's up with squibs? The most I've heard is that they can't use magic, like they can't wave their wands and do shit, but they can still see magical creatures like Dementors, which are apparently wizard exclusive. It's like, what? Like, what? Are squibs born to wizards? Or are they born to muggles? Like, what's that go? Do they ever answer that? If they did, I never came across it. Imagine the wizard who imagines a nuke with a bunch of spare magic. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, theoretically, it could happen where, like, a wizard just imagines a thing. Like Harry's main thing was he made glass disappear when his cousin was, like, leaning into the reptile house against the glass. Now, in the movie, he made it reappear. I don't think that happened in the books. But he literally just made glass disappear. Probably because he kind of subconsciously wished for it and thought it would be, like, revenge for being such an idiot. Like, Harry fucking grew his hair back overnight because he was given a terrible haircut. Like, when you look at the amount of energy required for such a thing, something like dropping a nuke is probably not that unfeasible. That's the thing. Good for an 11-year-old. Like, it's for its target demographic. The problem is when people like Sean, who's in his, like, late fucking 20s, start using it as serious fucking allegory for how people actually are. Hey, but goddamn, we are 43 minutes into this segment and we are not even fucking 5 minutes into this video. So I'm going to drop the Harry Potter rant here. And let's just keep going.
Or 5 of somebody else, or 10 of somebody else to take you out. And so you're not going to be able to garner very much support unless you have charisma. And Hitler had a lot of charisma. Hitler was very, very good at getting people to like him, which is why he won the popular votes. And he, I think, won the popular vote.
Yeah, it wasn't just because he had charisma. It's because he actually was addressing the problems that the German people had and was able to, you know, invoke policies that actually served German interests. It wasn't just that he was a very good speaker. He did actually have to have some fucking policies that were useful to the average citizen. But, you know, you don't want to talk about that shit. But let's continue.
multiple nations that they went to go and take over. So I'd say Voldemort's a bad villain because he doesn't do stuff like that in the Harry Potter series. Like there's one scene in the very, very last movie where they're about to go attack Hogwarts. Spoilers, but it's been out for like 10 or 11 years.
Oh, so you're even talking about the fucking movie instead of talking about the fucking books. This is how you know he's a fucking fake nerd. Like, this would be the equivalent of someone who talks about fucking deep-ass Avengers lore, but has only actually seen the movies. Meanwhile, there's people who've read the fucking comic books who are listening to what he's saying and thinking he's fucking stupid.
So if you haven't seen it yet, well, you probably won't watch it. So Voldemort's about to attack Hogwarts, and he's got his big army going up, and they're about to, start casting spells to break the shield of Hogwarts. And one of his people says, well, why don't we do this or something like that? Or what about this? And Voldemort, for this slight insubordination, Voldemort murders the guy on the spot. If you ever did that in front of your following, they would not follow you. You can't just, like that whole villain thing where they just kind of kill people at will, and they do it in front of all their followers where they can't hide it. You would lose your following very, very fast from doing that.
I don't know, Blackbeard fucking regularly shot his crew members, crippling them, in order to maintain a steady amount of fear, so no. Like, Machiavelli, straight up. Like, if you have to choose between fear and love, choose fear. Because people will betray people that they love far sooner than they betray someone that they fear. So, no. Fucking up your followers, killing them for not blindly supporting your orders, yeah, that's got historical precedent for being quite effective. Having your orders questioned and listening to and changing your mind, yeah, that's got historical precedent for making you easier to betray. And we are dealing with a bunch of people who probably betrayed their fucking friends and family and all that kind of shit. You probably want to rule through fear because it's clear that love is not what keeps these people loyal.
So if you're going to be evil, you have to be at least a little bit good. Otherwise, people won't get the message. And here's what they do.
No, you don't have to be a little bit good. There's plenty of people who've been nothing but pure fucking evil. And they managed to get away with a shit ton of authority for a long period of time. Until only eventually did the abused people snap. So, yeah, no. If you're going to say Voldemort's not a good villain because he fucks over his own people, no, that has historical precedent of working. If you're going to say Voldemort's a bad villain because his motivations are all kind of screwed up and he isn't really consistent with them, and he also isn't given much in the way of motivation aside from what, he was an orphan? I'll be honest, Voldemort's fucking motivations are kind of weird. Like, I'm thinking back right now, trying to think like, okay, well, what was the timeline of Voldemort's villain? It's like, okay, well, he was an orphan who was invited to Hogwarts. He was an heir to Slytherin, so he unleashed the fucking basilisk while still technically in high school. He learned how to split his soul into multiple parts by committing murder. And since apparently he was the only guy willing or capable of doing such a thing, he managed to make himself borderline immortal by splitting his soul into 7 parts. Because, no wizard just fucking murdered other wizards. Like, seriously, the idea that fucking killing somebody is all that is required to make yourself immortal? Like, that's it? Like, how much of a goody two-shoes do you expect the wizarding world to be? Seriously. I mean, again, kids book. I get it. Maybe young adult book, but that this is a grown-ass adult using it as fucking allegory to try to talk about real-world issues. This is the stupidity of the whole affair. The fucking morality system of Harry Potter does not hold up to adult standards. It is for fucking idealistic youth, and it's something you're supposed to grow out of. Let's continue.
Though, is everybody, this directly relates to Antifa, by the way, everybody who is doing a lot of really evil things, if they get any sort of big following, they always think they're doing good. So you have Hitler, who made a bunch of commentary on how Jews are ruining society. So of course, the natural thing to do to be a good person would be to get rid of all the people who are ruining society.
All right. I'm not going to comment too much on this because I still want to have a channel, you know? So we'll just let that shit fucking slide for the moment. But let's look at it from the perspective of the wizarding world. You have the Muggleborns, the non-purebloods, and the Muggles. Guess what the Muggles have during Voldemort's lifetime that the wizards don't? Guns. Nukes. Yeah, Hogwarts is protected by a magical fucking shield. You think it can stop a nuke? You think if someone sent a nuke to Hogwarts, they'd stop it with random magical bullshit? No. Voldemort is probably a closer analogy to Magneto than he is to Hitler. He recognizes that Muggles will persecute what they do not understand, and they do not understand magic, and that it's only a matter of time before the delicate balance of the wizarding world is upset. The Muggles learn about magic in a way that can't be put back in the fucking bottle, and the Muggles lead an extermination campaign against the wizards. You know, if you were to develop Voldemort a little more thoroughly as a villain, he'd probably end up as the Magneto of the wizarding world. Yeah, still seen as the villain, but he had a fucking point and wasn't necessarily wrong. Because here's the thing. What the hell in the wizarding world is equivalent to a gun? Like, that's all Avada Kedavra is. Like, oh, you point at a fucking person, say the magic words with intent to kill, a flash of green light shoots out, and if it hits the other person, they die. You know what also does that? A gun. A gun does that. Like, who do I think is going to win? An army of dark wizards armed with a bunch of spells that they need to say each individual time, or a handful of people with AR-15s. Like, what would you prefer? Would you prefer a wand that requires you to chant some nonsense pseudo-Latin bullshit to do anything? Or would you want an AR-15 that can spit out 15 rounds of death per second? I'm picking the AR-15s. Like, let's be honest, someone wanders into Hogwarts with an AR-15, how many wizards are they going to take out before that they're stopped? A lot. They're going to take out a lot. Especially since, like, there's no fucking killing magic. Like, what, you're going to shout Petrificus Totalis? Which is apparently a first-year level spell. Fucking 11-year-olds know how to perfectly petrify you. But the ability to kill someone is something that is forbidden. Seriously. The more you look at the logistics of Harry Potter, the more it makes less and less sense. Like, what counter do the wizards have to an AR-15? They don't have shit. They've got a little, I've got a little fucking shield charm, which is apparently so fucking rare that the Weasleys made a fortune selling hats enchanted with a shield charm to fucking law enforcement. That's how shitty the self-defense of the wizarding world is. That they sold joke hats. Joke hats were more effective protection than anything that government officials had when it came to dealing with curses. There are not enough words to describe the incompetence of the fucking wizards, nor their arrogance. Like, I'll admit, I'm still upset that Ron Weasley described human, muggle, doctors as nutters who cut people up. Motherfucker, do you have any idea how difficult it is to become a surgeon and the amount of mastery it takes to understand how to carefully work with a human body and prevent it from dying under the most strenuous of conditions? Meanwhile, your healers, quote unquote, just fucking wave their wand, say a chant in pseudo-Latin, or administer a potion made out of fucking plant roots and monster parts in order to freaking cure bullshit diseases that shouldn't even exist. You have no understanding of fucking anatomy, no understanding of human biology, no understanding of fucking anything. You just use magic for all your solutions, and you dare belittle the work of the most advanced human medical technologies and practitioners. Fuck you and your arrogant, pureblood bullshit. Yeah, I know why I sound pissed. Like, seriously, the fucking arrogance of purebloods is displayed in Ron Weasley, and that particular bit pisses me off. Because wizards apparently don't need to deal with all the fucking mundane illnesses and diseases that humans have. Like, wizards apparently don't just get cancer. Apparently, if you get cancer as a wizard, you just wave a magic wand, say a couple words, and fuck, you're cured of fucking cancer. Or you drink a certain fucking potion. Meanwhile, they make more fucking diseases that regular normal people don't have to deal with. Like, fuck you, Ron. Y'all invent more bloody diseases because you're fucking stupidly experimenting with shit that you shouldn't even bother with. Meanwhile, you reject all muggle advances because you think that you're better than them. Like, seriously, like fuck the fucking pureblood ideology. Like, I remember, I remember, there's this one, like, there's a fucking Tumblr post. There's this one scene in this one Harry Potter movie, I forget one, where this fucking wizard, just random extra in a bar, is reading a physics book, of all things. Meanwhile, he is stirring his coffee cup without using any chants whatsoever, no magic words. He's just waving his wand at his coffee cup and stirring it while he's reading a physics book. And given that chantless magic is so bloody difficult to do in the Harry Potter universe, that guy's probably the smartest fucking wizard out there. Because he can do magic without having to say any magic fucking bullshit Latin. And what's he doing? He's reading up on physics. And that, to me, is the smartest fucking wizard in Harry Potter, because he does not reject science for magic. So, yeah, sorry for me going off on Harry Potter right here, but I think Before You Sleep is going to use Harry Potter as some fucking bullshit analogy. Also, I am God knows how much rum do I have left? I don't know. I'm like through maybe like 45% of my fucking bottle of rum here. So I'm kind of sloshing. We'll probably wrap this up afterwards because we're already at the 3 hour mark. But God fucking damn it. Anyone who uses Harry Potter as a fucking analogy for human shit, they are going to get my fucking wrath. My fucking nerd rage. Fuck. We're only halfway through this. I gotta take a fucking piss and get more ice. Guys, I'm sorry. I will be right back. Now, I'm just gonna hit a fucking, like, pause on the record here. You're gonna get a brief intermission, so, go to the bathroom, grab a snack, grab a drink, whatever. We're gonna listen to the serenades of composition 576. Why make this a two-parter? All right, that one didn't sound terrible. Took me a second though, so I don't know. Maybe that one has potential. Can't say. Let's see. Uploaded as its own video? Well, honestly, I just might, because I have no idea how long I ranted about that for, but it was probably at least 20 minutes. Thankfully, I'm recording this stuff as its individual segments, so maybe I can get away with that. Just upload the Harry Potter rant, like Grey Ghost rants about Harry Potter for 20 minutes or something. I don't know. Like, it's one of those things that like I grew up with it. I read a lot of it, and then I, grew out of it. And now I see people taking it way too seriously and using it for stuff that it was never meant to be used for. Like, it would be the equivalent of me using fucking Sword Art Online or Konosuba as like an allegory for understanding complex adult situations, which might even like Sword Art Online Konosuba. Yeah, no, that'd probably be a pretty good Harry Potter equivalent. But at the very least, some isekai at least dabbles in politics. Just adjust this so my hand's either like on screen or off screen rather than this half and half. So, anyway, back to the segment. We are part 2 of Think Before You Sleep, section 32. We're the good guys. I went on a Harry Potter rant for the first bit, so we're making this a two-parter. Part 2. Let's go!
I might say all the white people are ruining society. They're all white supremacists. They're all terrible people. So what we're going to do is we're going to be good by getting rid of the people who are in the way, the people who are causing the problem. Of course, both answers are wrong. And of course, Antifa does nothing that's different than what Hitler did. And they're only progressively getting more and more violent and more evil. So there's been plenty of cases. I'll put a video. I was watching a video by Tim Pool earlier today.
Hey. Point out to me the difference between Antifa and the brown shirts, all right? Seriously. I'd be curious to see a list of comparisons, because the only thing that I'm seeing is which demographic they serve and which demographic they despise.
About the several felony convictions by Antifa actors. And this is just the most recent thing, as many people in Antifa have committed tons of acts of violence going back to maybe 2016 or so. Like the big one in 2016 was when Trump got elected, they broke the windows of some Starbucks and stuff like that, and violently protested or violently rioted. Or I like to say when Antifa does things like hit people in the face with a bike lock, is that they just gave that person a giant dose of peaceful protesting. On the opposite side, you can't be good unless you are evil too. If you are good without the capacity for evil, then you are probably just a pushover. And a lot of people who claim to be good, like this is the MGTOW channel, so let's talk about the nice guy.
This is a MGTOW channel. Not anymore, right?
The nice guy is not a nice guy. The nice guy is just the guy who can't get laid. If he was in the same position as the people who are the alphas or people the perceived alphas, he would be just as bad and just as evil as those people. They're not virtuous. He's only being nice because that's what he thinks girls want. And same thing, the people who are nice historically are only nice because that's what they think everybody expects of them. And
ah, yes, the old "don't confuse my kindness with weakness" argument. You see, now, maybe I'm just another motherfucker making excuses for his own weakness. Certainly possible. I could be called out on that. I'm not gonna deny it. But at the very least, when I'm kind to people, it's because I see that there is a long-term benefit to the relationship, and I don't really want the person to be outright despising me. So maybe I'll cut them some slack where I wouldn't for someone else. But, you know what? You're a little behind on making the payment to me. The shit didn't come through. You look like you fucked up. But you know what? I'm not particularly disadvantaged by it. And I think that I can benefit more from a long-term beneficial relationship with you than being a straight-up asshole. So I'll let this shit slide for the moment. But the instant you're useless to me, you're going under the fucking bus. I can't trust people who talk with me to be completely honest with me, so I don't know how effective this method is. Maybe it's completely useless and I am being an absolute fool. That is certainly possible. Working the way I want it to. I don't know for sure. I probably never will. Just have to see how it turns out and adjust accordingly. Something like nice to be nice. Like, look, if you don't have a reason to be an asshole to someone, it's usually just easier to let the social lubricant flow. You know, just be kind of nice to people because who needs that kind of friction? You know, when someone's requesting you make sacrifice for them and there's no real benefit to a longer term relationship, then yeah. And then you start to put up boundaries and say no or deny their implicit requests. Let's keep going here. We got like 5 minutes left.
It's if they can be nice enough, nobody will come and attack them, or nobody will come and confront them. That way, well, it's their coward's way to survival. And oftentimes, when these cowards actually get power, they commit terrible, terrible atrocities.
Yeah, there's a difference between the people who are nice because they are weak, and there's the people who are nice until they are pushed. I've managed to find a balance myself where it's like, look, I will be nice and friendly and sociable, and so long as you're decent to me, hey, things will go out just fucking fine. But if you actually manage to piss me off, then you have a problem. And because of that, people don't fuck with me. And I'm quite happy with that. Because people have learned that I'm someone that, hey, just be decent and nice to them, and things will be decent and nice. Fuck with them too much, and shit might actually go kind of fucking south, and you might actually suffer for it. And I think that that's, at least personally, a decent position to hold. Because I'm someone who gets to go through his day without being fucked with. And I don't have to be an asshole to do it. I get to basically be outside the whole bullshit hazing system. Because people know that I'm not someone to fucking bullshit haze. I mean, yeah, I take it from Chronic, but fuck, even Chronic doesn't haze me that much. He's fairly nice about the whole thing. Unless I actually fuck up, in which case, you know what? I fucking deserve it, and I gotta learn from it. So, entirely reasonable. But if someone's hazing me just because they got their own fucking bullshit on their mind, I don't stand for it. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Maybe everyone's got their own fucking shit. I'm just trying to find what works for me so that I can get through my life with minimal problems. Either way, let's keep going.
Well, look at Antifa. Antifa is probably the perfect example of that. A lot of those people are basically soy boy betas, and they finally get a little power because they put a mask on and they carry some weapons. But when people actually fight them back, they get their asses kicked. As opposed to when they just sucker punch people with bike locks or punch people in the face and stuff like that. When people fight back, they lose. So Antifa is just the exact type of person. They're just the nice guy. They're the guy who pretends to be good, but is actually not good. So if you're going to be really good, you have to explore your capacity for evil. You have to say, I could do these things, and what would make me do some terrible things? Because if you know what would make you do terrible things, you can sit there and rework your life so that those things that would cause you to do evil don't exist in your life. And if you don't develop that, you're not good, you're just harmless.
I mean, fair enough. Like, there's plenty of people that probably be severely injured or in the ground were it not for the existing legal system that had fucked me over. I mean, honestly, one of the things that annoys me is that when people complain, like, Gen Z and millennials are fucking pussies because they don't fight. It's like, motherfucker, you throw a single punch as a Gen Z or millennial, and you are looking at the cops getting involved and fucking court time and being in and out of the goddamn justice system trying to avoid prison for a year or more. Like, that's what you got to deal with if you throw a punch. Back in the fucking 70s and 80s, you could beat the shit out of somebody and no charges would be pressed. Shit, you might even go drinking with them the next day. These days, you get into an argument with someone to a certain extent and the cops get involved. Is it just me, or does what Think Before You Sleep describe basically out him? Yeah. No, that's the thing. It's the law of projection. Like when people make baseless accusations against someone that they don't know, they are effectively projecting their own behavior onto others and therefore outing the worst of themselves. And yes, that is the case with Think Before You Sleep. He is someone who pretends to be a part of a group only so long as that group benefits him. And then as soon as he gets a little bit of power, he starts fucking over other people. Like, yes, 100%. It's just how it is. We've seen it before. We'll see it again. I think that just trying to be realistic about yourself and realize, hey, look, like there are limits that I will fuck up. There are limits that I will absolutely screw over the people that have put trust in me. Is like, look, these are the limits. This is what they are, and if I do this, then like don't feel any guilt about casting me to the side of the fucking road. Just racist against ghosts of color. I'd be shocked if he fucking knows who I am. Like seriously, Sean, if you are at all watching this and you feel that, maybe you'd get decent engagement by engaging with me, sure. Then by all means hit me up. I'll fucking schedule some time for us, but realistically, you're not. I'm at what? 1/400th your sub count, something like that. You ain't gonna bother with shit like me. And that's fine. Because I'm willing to bet that 99% of your audience I wouldn't even want anyway. Let's keep going. We got what? 3 minutes to go, and we are not doing a third session. I am like fucking 10 shits to the wind, guys. Fuck. Let's try to wrap this up before I collapse out of fucking drunken stupor.
This is why back to the nice guy example. Women do like nice guys. To be honest, I've seen quite a few women with nice guys, and they're very very happy.
Yeah, women like nice guys the same way that I like a useful tool. It's fucking nice, it's beneficial, but the instant that it doesn't work for me, I'm going to replace it with something better. Like, just because a woman likes a nice guy doesn't mean that she's in any way loyal to it or sees any long-term benefit in it or is willing to do any sort of sacrifice for it. Like, being liked by a woman is not an accomplishment. It means that you are useful to them at that particular moment. And yeah, any fucking nice guy can be useful because you can absolutely fucking drop some cash on her to give her what she wants. And then she'll dispose of you 2 seconds later because she thinks you're so fucking pathetic for dropping money on someone like her.
However, they do not like a particular type of nice guy. And when they call you a nice guy, they're essentially calling you a pussy. You're not nice, you're just harmless. And at some point, I'm going to be in danger. At some point, I'm going to be attacked. This may not be exactly the case if you're in a Western culture or Western society, because things are a lot safer in Western culture. But think of this biologically, because there is danger, there's a flood always around the corner. You always have to look over your shoulder for the next guy that's going to try to take you out. And if you're someone who's weak and she's pregnant, or she has young children and she has to protect them as well, and you can't take up that opportunity or that task, well, then she's not going to want to be around you. You're going to be the lesser male. Now, of course, this is a MGTOW channel, so this might not directly apply to you because you might not be going for.
This is a MGTOW channel. I guess let's correct now for the modern age. This was a MGTOW channel, and then MGTOW ceased to be popular on the internet and became blacklisted by YouTube. So, Mr. Sean here, Mr. Think Before You Sleep, decided to ditch the label of MGTOW in order to preserve his subs, in order to preserve his channel's fame, in order to preserve his income. He compromised his integrity. That's why he buried shit like this, and why it falls to people like me to dig it all up and dig through it piece by piece.
Relationships, certainly, that's a fine route in my opinion, especially with all the dangers that relationships have these days.
I mean, Coltimus, if you want this to be the last one, like, I'm okay with it being the last one. I just got to dig up some stuff that's actually relevant. Unfortunately, like this kind of stream gets 2 to 3 times my usual level of viewers. So I don't know. I'd need to find some kind of live stream that gets a larger amount of live viewers than this, or at least an equal amount, in order to actually stop this. Because this is my most popular content, like it or not.
But you can still use that as an example. Because maybe in your life, before you figured all this out, you were called a nice guy.
Gray sounds incredible drunk. Is that good or bad? I have no idea. I mean, I don't know what you mean by incredible. That could be sarcasm, but this is me thoroughly sloshed. So if I sound good to you, great. If I sound like a fucking idiot to you, like, well, it is what it is, guys. This is what you get when I'm fucking 10 shits to the wind and let's see. Fucking I'm at least 300 milliliters of 40% alcohol into this, so if you like it, great. I probably could use a fucking donation tier to make me drink, but when I listen to this guy, I don't need no tier to make me drink. I just drink to get through this. 2.5 minutes, we're almost done.
Oh, you're so nice. I wish I had a guy like you. Anytime a girl says that, she's calling you a pussy. So if you've been identified as a pussy, what you should be doing is changing that. Because even if you're not going to get in relationships, the whole thing still affects you. Because at some point, at some point in your life, it's going to come back to you. Someone is going to attack you. Someone's going to try to harm you. Someone's going to do something that's terrible. And you have to have the strength to not be a pushover. You have to have the strength to fight back. Or you could be worse. You could be like these Antifa assholes who are not doing things out of the kindness of their heart, even though they claim to do this, even though they claim to be acting to fight against white supremacy. We're going to fight against fascism, even though that Antifa is a big group full of racists and a big group full of fascists. Because the textbook definition of fascism is shutting people down who politically disagree with you, and that's exactly what Antifa does, and they do so very, very violently. So they are ultra-fascist. So what they say and how they represent themselves is not accurate. And I've said before that you never watch what people say, or you never listen to what people say, you always watch what they do, because often people do not know how to correctly describe themselves, and that may very well be the case in Antifa, or they may be doing it intentionally.
Yeah, honestly, basically, good advice. Again, one of the few actual sensible takes of Sean of Think Before You Sleep is that, yeah, don't pay attention to what people say. Pay attention to what they do. If they say that they are anti-fascist, and yet they act like fascists, then they are fascists. Because their words are nothing. To fucking quote Game of Thrones, words are wind. They are temporary, ephemeral, and ultimately useless. So, yeah, never believe that the words that someone says, believe their actions, and plan your actions according to the actions of others. If you plan your actions according to the words of others, you're just begging to get screwed over. So, don't let yourself be that, guys. You have a lot more value than you really give yourselves credit for. So don't let yourselves be fucked over by people who only know how to exist as parasites, not producers.
Sometimes people don't know how to describe themselves, or they're just outright lying. And the only way you can actually figure out who a person is by watching what they do. And so Antifa says that they are the peaceful people. They are the ones that are trying to help society. But what they do is something completely opposite of that. And so based on how they're acting, this is not an act of goodwill. This is not an act of kindness. This is not an act of a person being nice. This is an act of, I've never had power in my entire life. This group Antifa gives me power. And so now I'm going to be in charge. Now I'm going to be the asshole that everybody was to me. It's the same thing the feminists are doing. They perceived themselves to be oppressed by men. So why don't we get into power so we can oppress men back, just like we were oppressed? This is the type of revenge tactic that is not good at all, and something that hopefully we will figure out how to get rid of in this generation, or at least to a high extent, because if we don't, we're going to meet a pretty extreme peril. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you like this, please hit the subscribe button on the channel if you're new to it. Hit the like button on the video as well. Add to the discussion. How about you throw a comment down in the comment section?
Yeah, you can't like or comment on this video because he took it down from his channel because he no longer agrees with it. So if you'd agree with the sentiments that he said here, well, he no longer agrees with said sentiments. So, trust his actions, not his words. And I just ended the recording. I am like 10 fucking shits to the wind, and I gotta be up in the morning for some wargaming, guys, so I'm gonna hit the ending scene and just call it a night. 18 viewers in the chat. We peaked out at above 30, so thank you. Thank you all for tuning up. Thank you all for showing up. Happy Canada Day, gents. I'm going to hit the ending scene, hit offline, and then I'm going the fuck to bed. Go sleep. They do when they've consumed, like, a shit ton of liquor. Fascism just means people unite for a singular goal, acting as one body. Well, now I never have people use the word. Nah, like fascism, as I've understood it, is the unification of government and business. Which, quite frankly, means that most of the West lives within a fascist society because the government and business march in lockstep. I'm hitting the ending scene, guys. Peace out. Y'all have a good night. Happy Canada Day. And happy 4th of July to all you Americans, who I imagine is basically everyone. Peace.